Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Logan Bailey.
Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast, Football Edition, brought to you by our primary sponsor, 3Chord. I'm your host, Logan Bailey, and joined today by Keith Brown, AJ Fairchild, and Tony Fairchild joined us back after his trip to California. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Yep. Thank you, Logan.
All right, guys. Well, it is the regional final podcast. A lot of good football we saw last week, and we're going to kind of get into it here. So, guys, thoughts going into the regional final week of the OHSAA football playoffs?
Just should be exciting. I'm just telling you, we went and watched the Liberty Center play last week. It was an exciting game, and I think it's just going to get better as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice to see all three teams that we had last week still in it. It's very rare that we keep the same group of teams, and we're excited to see some new athletes this week as we travel a bit.
Yep. Winners go to state.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the best time of year. I was talking to my wife earlier. I said, I know we cover Tenor football all year, and that's awesome, which we love to do. But I said, I like this time of year. We get to see a bunch of other great athletes in Northwest Ohio play, and there's a lot of good football going on right now. Best time, truly the best time of the year. So,
and it's not even Christmas.
That's right. It's not even Christmas time.
Although by going into the department stores, you think it is Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
'Tis the season for football, that's for sure. So let's move into our next segment here. We'll look at how we did for our picks last week, and it was actually a three-way tie for first, and that ended up being AJ, Tony, and Bryce all going 3-0. So congratulations to those guys. And second, this past week was Logan, Keith, and Matthew, all with a 2-1 record. And on the year, Matthew still ranks first with a 171-42 record. Second is Keith with a 168-45 record. I'm in third with 167-46 record. Fourth is Tony with 164-49 record. Fifth is AJ with 161-52 record. And last place is Bryce with 153-59 record. But overall, everyone's been picking very well this season. So Tony, AJ, let's hear your words of wisdom for your last week's picks.
Hometown heroes, baby. It's just one of the hometown boys, and it paid off. So I was very happy to see all three teams win and continue their seasons.
Yeah, don't bet against the hometown.
Very good, true. And that's what Bryce has been doing the entire playoffs. He said, I don't care. He said, I'm a man of the people, and he stuck to his word, and he picks the home team and the local team every single game. And, sometimes it pays off, and last week it did. So, all right. Well, we've got a couple games to get to. A few of them here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the round 3 playoffs, the regional semifinal games. And we're looking at NWO Sports Game of the Week from last week in Division 5, Region 18. The 4-seed Oak Harbor faced off against the 1-seed Liberty Center, and Liberty Center ended up dominating that game. They won 45-14. We were all at that game. It was tied up at halftime, 24-7, with Liberty Center leading. Total offense, Liberty Center had 526 yards, 331 rushing. Oak Harbor had 305 yards, 248 passing. Turnover battle, Liberty Center had 1 with a fumble. Oak Harbor had 0. We were trying to figure out, I couldn't remember if they had an interception or not. I know the stats we kind of received were not exactly 100% correct. I don't know. I can't remember.
I know Liberty Center had a fumble for sure.
I don't remember anybody throwing a pick. I think it was just a 1 turnover.
Yeah, so I believe Oak Harbor had 0 turnovers, which is impressive from them. But looking at some top players from Liberty Center, man, did those kids show out. And there was a lot of good players. And we're going to talk about it here for at least a little bit. But the physicality and the hits from this game were awesome to see. So some top players from Liberty Center: running back Colton Cruz, 10 carries, 122 rushing yards, 12.2 yards a carry with 1 rushing touchdown. He had 5 tackles for 2 tackles for loss. Running back linebacker Trenton Cruz, he had 15 carries, 118 rushing yards, good for 7.9 yards a carry with 2 rushing touchdowns. On defense, he had 6 tackles. He had 1 huge hit on Oak Harbor's quarterback, along with many other great plays on defense. Wide receiver defensive back Landon Cruz, 5 receptions, 114 receiving yards. And it's funny because AJ brought it up. He said, there's one kid, Landon Cruz, talking about the athleticism of getting those kids ball in space and, the plays that they can make. And Landon Cruz was one of them, and he had a heck of a game catching the ball. And not only on top of playing defense, too, but it wasn't even really necessarily for him getting the ball in space. He was making contested catches, and they were phenomenal. Sure was. But very good performance from him. Running back Waylon Rentz had 13 carries, 91 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. Quarterback Landon Amstutz they threw the ball 16 times this game, and he completed 10 passes for 63%, 195 passing yards, and 1 passing touchdown. Very efficient game from him. So, guys, there's a lot to talk to from this game. Who wants to kick this off?
I'll go ahead and start it off because, man, I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks here that the Liberty Center's been playing around with that passing game a little bit, kind of testing the waters, and they come out first play from the line of scrimmage in this game and throw like a 30-yard ball down the middle of the field. That was a great catch. It was contested ball, but fantastic catch made to set them up to score in the first 3 plays.
In the first play of the game, they opened with that. They opened up with that play action, and and Amstutz threw it up to Landon Cruz, kind of over the middle, and he came down. And really, the defensive back did a pretty good job, and I was kind of shocked that Landon Cruz came up with it, and it was a heck of a catch.
Yeah, it was even kind of a back shoulder. It's kind of throwy, but...
Yeah, and Landon Amstutz coming up with 195 passing yards. We've had a few hot takes about Liberty Center's offense being too one-dimensional, or I think last week was low-key trash. I think this week, if that doesn't solidify where Liberty Center stands, I don't know what will other than a state title, because 195 yards passing on top of the fact that it was also 526 yards of offense. Nobody can ever question whether or not that's a powerful offense anymore.
Do you think maybe they took that little hot take to maybe they put that up in their locker room and says we're trash? You know what I mean?
Locker room motivation right there.
Yeah, but I tell you what, it was a great game to go to. I enjoyed it. Been looking forward to getting back out and watching Liberty Center play. And I tell you what, the physicality in this game was unbelievable. You mentioned Trenton Cruz. I went back and looked at that little video you posted, Logan, and I tell you what, there was 2 or 3 shots he laid on people, and the one where he hit the Oak Harbor's quarterback out of bounds was just unbelievable. He sent him over there clear against the bleachers. But yeah, I mean, just the tackle that Landon Bachman had on the quarterback. That poor guy was. He was beat up. I tell you,
he tossed him around like a rag doll.
Yeah, got down towards the end of the game, and the quarterback was kind of limping around playing defense, and it's like I think he was just kind of like waving a white flag a little bit, like, okay, I'm done. I'm tired of getting beat up. But
it's funny you mentioned that about the Oak Harbor's quarterback. Actually, that was a point I wanted to bring up. I said I know that Oak Harbor lost, but I tell you what, that quarterback from Oak Harbor, Mike Lalonde, he took a beating, but he got up every play and fought to the very end.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that deserved a shout out because I think AJ and we watched, he was playing defense and he got up so slow after a play. You could tell he was just giving it his all. But that was just a point I wanted to make as well.
Yeah, it just was a great game.
And the thing is, though, all of the big hits that we saw were all very clean, very good football hits. Just lowering the shoulder into the chest, the stomach. Nothing head to head. Nothing, like what we had actually seen earlier in the season. So very, very clean physical football game.
Boy, I think you guys pretty much hit all the bulletin points on the head. For the time we walked in there, fantastic facility. Again, talked to Caleb Pullum again for a bit. Great AD over there.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest hitting game that we've seen in years, honestly. And actually, what Tony pointed out a bit ago, that hit by Bachman, he just kind of, I don't think he knew how to react on his first sack. He just kind of one-armed the quarterback to the ground, and he kind of stood there, like we said during the game, kind of like Michael Myers. He just kind of stood there for a split second and tilted his head because I don't think he actually knew what happened at first. But yeah, the hits in that game were just one after another. Catches. I mean, both teams at Stokes for Oak Harbor had 1 or 2 fantastic catches. But
a tall frame receiver, 6'4", and he went up and made a couple of
that touchdown he had right before the half was great.
Very impressive.
But as AJ said, he hit it right on the head. I mean, first pass of the game. Perfect ball fake, doing down the field. Great catch there. But you really can't say that Liberty Center, all they do is run after that. And they throw close to 200 yards through the air, over 500 yards total offense. Defense allowed probably a little more yards than what Coach Moeller would have liked. But overall, I mean, we were right on the field and right on the sidelines, and you could hear the hits right after one another. And it was It was a great game.
Tony, and like you said, that highlight video I put together, I went back and watched it. I said, holy cow, I got chills watching it
I
again.
did too.
You could hear some of the hits. You could hear, I know my audio was a little bit messed up. I think the batteries were running low on it, but I think it was AJ in the background with going, oh, in the background of some of the hits. Very impressive. Colton Cruz, I know it didn't count for anything, but he laid the wood on their quarterback. I don't know if you saw that hit.
Yeah.
Where he came rushing off the edge and just absolutely lit him up.
Yep.
I loved it. But, Keith, you brought up again the passing game that Liberty Center had. You guys have all touched on it. I think if your team's going forward in the playoffs, you ever see like that cartoons where they've got like something in their throat and they take a deep swallow? I think a lot of teams are going to have something like that. Like, oh my goodness, Liberty Center. Can they not only run the ball, but teams are going to have to respect the pass game from Liberty Center and Landon Amstutz and some of those receivers like Cruz. But
I think Liberty Center's got a couple adjustments to make. I did see a couple chinks in the armor there. Where Oak Harbor was stopping them a little bit on the short gains, but I tell you what, they were getting it going. No doubt about that. But Oak Harbor, I tell you what, I'm going to give a shout out to their school and their facility because that press box
Oregon.
Oregon, Clay.
Too many O's.
Sorry, yeah. But that press box is pretty cool. I tell you what, the way you could walk underneath it and it's 2 level.
That
and
little pavilion off the each side.
That was
If
awesome.
you want to sit outside watching the game at a table like you would a baseball game or something.
A very casual environment.
it's
They had
great.
the high-rise table and chairs, and you could sit up there and just enjoy the game. And very interesting. I've never seen a press box like that. And then the fact that inside the press box it was divided. I liked how it was almost
Tiered.
Tiered, yeah.
I want to say a double-decker, but tiered.
no.
And below, the media could sit there, and you had all the PA announcers. But up top, again, they had kind of like those high-rise chairs. Very casual setting. It was warm in there, too, which was nice to warm up at halftime. But athletic director Joe Kiss and the rest of the staff, we were greeted by all of them. Excellent job. They run a top-notch facility there, and definitely somewhere I wouldn't mind going back again.
Even when we walked in, like one of the ushers per se sat there and talked to us for 5 to 10 minutes about all the upgrades.
Talking
that they
about
did.
the facility.
He was proud as heck about it.
Yeah, that was awesome to see. And when schools take pride in their facilities like that, it really shows. And we said that was probably one of the more unique and probably better facilities that we've seen the entire year, and in general, greater Northwest Ohio area too.
And one of the other things that was really cool was the locker room under the bleachers where the kids come running out from up the steps and across the field. That was really cool too. They did an old school thing, and they talked about some of the old school helmets.
I don't remember who it was that told us, but I guess as you walk out through, they have the helmets of, I believe, clay throughout the years as they've progressed, probably like the single bar face mask, and they kind of progressed to modern day clay high school helmets. But we talk, and it's neat to see different programs touches on their culture, their football program, and things like that. So
I went on my Apple Maps, was showing somebody the stadium, and then the map is not updated, so it still shows the school with the grass field and a small press box. I was kind of like, whoa, that's not even close to what they have now. So
Awesome.
One other thing I wanted to kind of talk about was the fact that the AD said that place holds like 5,000 people or so. And I bet you it had all of 5,000 people. I mean, there wasn't a seat in the place, which was awesome. And the audio, you're hearing the fans. A lot of places nowadays, especially with some of the lower attendance we've seen, you don't get that atmosphere as much. But man, that atmosphere was there in full.
I think he said that the old school concrete bleachers actually bounce the sound back. So instead of going through the bleachers, it keeps it there on the field. So, but yeah, that crowd there was great. Both sides packed, as AJ said. Liberty Center was right behind us, and boy, oh boy, talk about a loud fan base.
It's awesome. And they brought the whole town of Liberty Center, and then probably add maybe like another couple thousand people too, because everyone, and I feel like Henry County was at that game. So that was awesome to see, and you could tell the players, the team in general, they really fed off the energy from the crowd, and they made a difference in that game. There's no doubt about that. So. All right. Well, we're going to move on. We got a couple other games here to touch on. We have 3 teams still playing in the playoffs, which is awesome to see. The next one, we're looking at Division 6, Region 22, and that's the 4-seed Cary. They played the 1-seed Columbus Grove, and Columbus Grove was victorious, 37-21. Columbus Grove was up 14-0 after the first quarter. Looking at total offense, Columbus Grove had 297 yards, and then we did not have stats on the rest of them. Looking at some top players of note from Columbus Grove. Quarterback Landon Best, 8 of 12, 174 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions, 7 carries for 29 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown. Running back Trenton Barraza, 23 carries, 160 rushing yards with 3 rushing touchdowns. And wide receiver Zach Reynolds, 3 receptions, 113 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. So guys, thoughts on the Cary and Columbus Grove game? Unfortunately, I didn't have all the stats, and we kind of pieced together some different things too. So they may not all be exactly 100%, but we'll roll with it, and we'll talk about Columbus Grove a little bit.
Keith's big guy, loves talking about Trenton Barraza, and I tell you what, he had another big game, and we're following this game as just as we're watching Liberty Center play. We're down on the field watching Liberty Center play, so we're watching all the other games, so keeping track, guys. So don't think because we're not there watching you guys that we're not watching it, because we were following all these games. And was excited to hear that you guys were up at 14-0 at halftime, or after the first quarter. I'm sorry, and it looked like it was going to be a good game, and you just kept the steam rolling.
Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, Columbus Grove, like we said, after that game against Bluffton week 10 where they captured the league crown, they just turning on and playing week by week. Got a rematch coming up, which we'll talk a little bit about more later, versus Bluffton, and boy, oh boy, that's going to be another great, fantastic game. So Coach Schaefer has the boys playing well. Trenton Barraza, just time this kid is done, he's just going to set, providing he's healthy, let's pray for that. But lots of records at Columbus Grove, which at the time you would have thought, 15, 20 years ago, it'd be nobody's going to break these records. But Barraza, with a good next year, he's going to shatter a lot of records at Columbus Grove.
Yeah, not a whole lot extra to touch on there. I'm really looking forward to the rematch this week here with Bluffton coming up that we'll get into in a little bit.
And I wish we could be at all 3 from last week. Yeah. But this was another great one. We talked about the physicality that both programs historically bring. Cary running the traditional Maryland I formation. They're going to run the ball right at you down your throat. You know that there were kids out there just clashing heads and clashing helmets every single play. And I just wish we could have seen that. But it was awesome to see Columbus Grove come out with a huge win against a quality Cary team that just a couple of years ago won a state championship as well. So
two or three, yes.
Yeah, so very impressive from Columbus Grove. Let's move on to the next game, and our last game here for the game recaps. We're looking at Division 7, Region 26, and we're looking at Hopewell Loudon facing off against Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry ended up winning this one 26-14. Patrick Henry led at halftime 14-7, and I have this asterisk, highlighted, bolded, everything, and this is the most impressive stat from this game. And Keith and I talked about it a little bit before. Patrick Henry possessed the ball for 32 minutes and 2 seconds compared to Hopewell Loudon's 15 minutes and 58 seconds. Unbelievable.
Sometimes your best defense is a good offense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stay on the field. Keep them off the field.
So that's just unbelievable. But even I don't know if that, and that's 100. Does that? There's what are quarters? 12 minutes.
12.
Okay, so I guess that would be. But yeah, very impressive from them. And in the last couple games, Patrick Henry has really controlled the clock, and they've been doing a nice job at that. Hopewell Loudon, a couple other stats here, only has 6 first downs all game compared to Patrick Henry's 16. Total offense, Patrick Henry had 298 yards with 167 rushing. Hopewell Loudon, 169 yards, 140 passing. Turnover battle, Patrick Henry just had 1 with an interception. Hopewell Loudon had 2 with 1 interception and 1 fumble. Some top players from Patrick Henry, quarterback Lincoln Krieger, 8 of 13, 62% completion percentage, 126 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. He did have 1 interception, but he also had 21 carries, 91 rushing yards, 1 reception for 5 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. And I believe they ran the Philly specials, what I was told or heard. So pulling out the little bit of trickery to score on a touchdown. That's awesome to see. Running back Houston Miranda, 25 carries, 76 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Wide receiver Layden Johnson, 5 receptions, 68 receiving yards, and he had the passing touchdown too, Lincoln Krieger. Wide receiver Thomas Smith, he's done a really nice job at stepping up. Lincoln Krieger was actually one of the top targets that Nash Meyer had earlier in the season, and he's really filled in that role as another nice quality receiver. And Thomas Smith had 2 receptions, 40 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. So filling a very nice role out wide. Guys, thoughts on the Hopewell Loudon and Patrick Henry game?
Even to touch a little more on your highlighted stats, Logan, there was only 4 possessions in the first half combined. Each team had 2 possessions.
Wow. So,
in a pretty much similar time of possession, Patrick Henry basically had the ball the entire first half. And we'll see what happens next week with Patrick Henry, but this could be Coach I's probably outside of a state championship, even including that, could be his best coaching job ever.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you realize you lose Nashmeyer, you lose I have it written down here, Bosselman, Behrman. You lose 3 key players, and you're playing for the right to play for go to the state Final Four coming up this Friday after, especially like we said, losing Nashmeyer, who's set record after record after record, broke Coach Heber's records, and you lose 2 other key players, one of your center and another receiver, plus you take one of your receivers into quarterback who's probably never played that much at all, probably since maybe Little League or whatever, if at all. And every single week he seems to get better. And mind you, he was hurt twice during this game, and I believe from talking to some of my friends around this game, actually got carried off and then bounced back and came right back in. So
wow. And I personally, like you said, Keith, I want to give Patrick Henry, the coaching staff, the players, a lot more credit, because I know the last couple of weeks I haven't picked them for picks, and I was really kind of doubting them, if I'm being honest. And they have fought through adversity throughout the year. You know, ever since Nashmeyer went down, we thought that they were going to tank. Honestly, if we're being honest, the rest of the season, because we know what type of offense they ran. They had Nash was the main driving power behind that whole beast, and you know, all these kids have stepped up, from your Lincoln Kriegers, your Thomas Moores, to Landon Johnson, to Houston Miranda. They've all have taken on some more responsibility on the team. They've stepped up. They've adapted to maybe new positions that they never played before as well. And I just want to give all of them over in Patrick Henry a huge shout out. And it's just awesome to see them really come out and produce. And no matter what everyone says, beside all odds, they come out and they continue to win. And I think that's just very impressive. And that goes to a testament of the coaching staff and kids over there at Patrick Henry.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing else to add to that. You guys nailed it. They're doing a heck of a job over there, keeping these kids' eyes on the prize. You know, just keep going, guys. Hey, that's just because one guy goes down, the next guy's got to step up. And you know, we talk about that all the time. At least I do. I talk about that all the time. You never know when the coach is going to turn around and go, "It's your turn," and it just happens.
Actually, Tony, listening to some of my friends, they said they had 2 freshmen starting cornerbacks. So those kids are like 13, 14 years old, starting.
Possibly.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to me, you talked about the time of possession, which is unbelievable, but I'm looking down at the stats, and Hopewell Loudon had 169 total yards, and 140 of them were passing. They had 29 yards rushing the ball.
They only had 6 first downs.
Jeez, that's just dominated the line of scrimmage right there by Patrick Henry. And you know what? Like I said, as you started the whole thing, Logan, when your best offense is, or best defense is a good offense. Sometimes you stay on the field and just keep. If you can get 16 first downs. Okay, you're gonna have to stop me. I'm just gonna keep trucking away and just keep plugging them out 3 yards, you know, and run the clock out on you.
Yeah, I think at the end of the season here, we do like our Iron Man Player of the Year kind of thing. And I think if there's a team that embodies that the most, it's definitely Patrick Henry. The way they just keep fighting, even with people going down and the adversity, and they don't stop.
I agree. I mean, I think you guys. Keith, do you have something else to add?
Just one last. I kind of like to look into stuff a little more at times. They averaged 32 points with Nash at quarterback, and with Lincoln Krieger, they're averaging 31.
Wow, impressive.
Not much of a change.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I haven't really seen a big change in their offense this year. You know, because they started out the season kind of running the ball. We talked about that. They were going to go back to using the tight end, and that's what Coach I said. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much more to say. I mean, I think that they just have proven everyone wrong, and I hope they continue to do so.
Absolutely.
It's great to see. So, well, that concludes our game recaps. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. 3Chord is a family-owned and operated business who offers the highest quality embroidery, screen printing, sign and promotional items to customers in Northwest Ohio at competitive prices. Locations in Archbold, Napoleon, and Bowling Green. Check them out at 3chord.com. That's THREECORD.com. Optimal Performance Fitness is your go-to gym in Northwest Ohio, providing group fitness classes, personal training, and sports performance sessions for area athletes. Located in Napoleon, Ohio, give them a call today at 419-438-7265. BSN Sports is your go-to business for purchasing uniforms, equipment, spiritwear, and anything else your athletic program needs, giving you more time to impact lives on the field. With over 1,200 sales professionals who live, work, and serve in your community, we are always just a short drive or phone call away. Be sure to give your local sales rep and Jim Garris a call for any of your athletic supply needs. For any of your auto body or collision needs, be sure to check out Bat & Stevens Body Shop, voted the #1 body shop in Northwest Ohio by Crescent News readers. Give them a call today at 419-497-3111 to schedule your free estimate. Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on TenoraRams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well. Fairchild Family Chiropractic aims to help families to get better together in the least invasive way possible. Dr. Fairchild focuses on the neck using the Blair technique and Palmer package, adjusting to correct spinal misalignments. Located in Defiance, Ohio, call Dr. Fairchild today at 419-576-5070 to schedule an appointment. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to the Coach's Corner segment of the podcast. And today we have head coach of the Liberty Center Tigers and Casey Moeller on. So thanks for coming on, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we'll get things started here. I want to first congratulate you for your for your NWOL championship, your success this postseason so far. You guys have really done an excellent job.
Thanks. It's fun to have the success, but it's a lot of hard work.
And I mean, your success, I mean, it shows year after year, and you guys just do a phenomenal job. But going into this season, it's been extraordinary in terms of dominance, your accomplishments. Take me through what this season has been like for you so far in your eyes.
Well, it's been so far a great season. When you go back to the beginning of the season, we knew we had a good core of guys coming back with a lot of guys, about 6 guys from last year's team that made a nice run that were returning starters. For coaches, it was a big question mark on how we're going to replace our seniors from last year. We had some guys that we felt like could really contribute, and we had some guys that just have stepped up a lot this year and probably delivered more than what we thought they would. So it's been nice to see the guys that we were counting on to really play at a high level, and then it's been really nice to see some of the new guys come in and kind of pick up right where last year's seniors left off, and that's really been probably a big key is our younger guys that are first-year players have really stepped up this year.
Yeah, and it's funny because that actually led into my next question I was going to ask you. I've said coming into the season, and you talked about losing some guys to graduation. You look at guys like Owen Box. He's a first-team All-Ohio player. Starting running back last year, Matthew Orr. He was another All-Ohio player. And then your starting quarterback in Zane Zeiter, another All-Ohio player, along with many other great athletes out of that senior class last season. And I've said on the podcast and through these guys, I said, if going into this season, if you would have told me Liberty Center would have had a better season than you guys had last year, I would have said you're crazy. I mean, it was unbelievable what you guys did last season. But this year, I've got some stats here. You guys have outscored opponents this year 632 to 89. You're averaging 49 points per game, and you're allowing just 7 points per game. And that's including playoff games as well. On top of 4 shutouts this season. And do you think a lot of your success, I know you kind of touched on it too, but going more into it is just because of the younger guys stepping up and filling into roles, or what do you relate this season's success to?
I think a lot of it has to do with some of the younger guys stepping up, but also our seniors who we were counting on, and you kind of know what you're getting with them, but they've really raised the level of their play probably beyond what I expected from them. So they've raised their level of play, and then like I said, our younger guys that are first year starters or first year contributors have really stepped up their game. And then we still have a lot of young kids that maybe don't play a lot on Friday night, but have really developed this year and have really given us good looks on scout team and things like that. And those are some of the things maybe people don't notice, is that our practices have been very, very quality practices all year for us.
Yeah, very well said. I'm going to open it up to these guys. They'll ask you some questions here, and we'll roll with that.
Hey, Coach, I just want to take you back to week 1 against Tenora. Going into halftime of that game, you guys were pretty evenly matched there. Now, obviously here coming into the later half of the season, I don't think that game would even remotely go the same way as it did. But what was your thoughts coming out of halftime in that game that kind of seemed to spark the rest of your season?
Week 1 is always tough because it looks like you're playing in sand. You just don't move very fast, and it's hard to get going. And I thought the first half of that game was the case there. It was a tight game, and you're a little bit nervous, but at the same time, we felt like there were about 2 plays that really cost us about 14 points. We gave up a big pass play, and I think we muffed a punt early in the game and gave them really good field position. And we felt like, if we eliminate those type of mistakes, we're going to have a chance here. And we came out at halftime, and our defense really stepped up to the occasion and kind of put the clamps on them and let our offense kind of find their way. And then a lot of times, you, as a coach, you notice from week 1 to week 2, you make your biggest improvement. And I thought after that game, we started to make leaps and bounds and gains on both sides of the ball.
Yep, sure did. And it's been a lot of fun to see you guys develop and become this absolute powerhouse in Northwest Ohio sports.
Keith?
Coach, your special teams over the last couple of years, including your kickers, have been very, very successful. And heading into the playoffs, you have Ian Rosenbrook. Is that going to be key as far as going into this game versus Coldwater?
Well, we feel like special teams is a big part of our success, especially defensively. We've started a lot of games where we've had touchbacks on kickoffs where a team's starting at the 20, and if we can get a 3 and out, we're getting the ball near midfield and inside of midfield. We've done that numerous times this year, and then we build a 2-3 score lead early in the game. But especially when you get into November, I think special teams are big. Your kicking units, if you've got somebody who can get it near the end zone and you've got a coverage team that can go down and cover, you can put an offense kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. And we've got 2 really good kickers. Ian Rosebrook does our extra points and field goals. He's getting better and better each week. And then Max Walker's done a nice job kicking off for us, and he's got 30-some touchbacks on the year. And we've kind of been toying with our coverage units all year, and we feel like we've got a real good group in there now and in the right place, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah, I tell you what, the one thing that I talked about with the guys when we were standing on the sideline the other night was the number of people that you run in and off the field. You're always giving people breaks, and I thought that's really cool. But like you talked about your kickoff unit, I think I counted at one time there were 7 people that came off the field, 6 or 7 that came off the field and went back on. I think it was punt or kickoff or something. I'm like, and I told these guys, you don't know how big that is. Being and Logan does, and being an ex-football player, and and AJ played football as well. If you can get a break, even for a play or two, it's huge to you as a player. And I see you guys doing that all the time. And I know we talked about this at the beginning of the season. You're younger people. How are you getting them involved? And I guess where does that trust come in? I mean, do they just prove themselves at practice?
Well, one of the things we try to get guys who are starting both ways off of special teams as much as we can. We want to get younger guys out there. We feel like that's a great way to get them on the field for a couple plays on a Friday night, gain some experience, and contribute and give guys a rest. Now, we know going into big games, sometimes we say, all right, we got to go with our best guys here. But if we can get younger guys involved and let them know, look, this is your opportunity to go out there. You're going to stay out there as long as you make plays and do your job. And we feel like we get a lot of buy-in from that, and guys are competing for that. And probably the other thing that helps is we have really good numbers in our program. We've got 68 guys, and we tell them, we got 68 guys here. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, we're going to find somebody that does.
Right, yeah.
And so that's a little bit of a motivating factor. And so it develops depth. It gives guys a break, and then when we need to, if we got to get our best guys on the field for one kickoff or 2 kickoffs a game, we can certainly do that. But it keeps guys hungry, and they know they're contributing and they buy in, and then we always point out when we watch film, look how important the special teams are here, where we pin them back and we get great field position, and we really try to emphasize that as a key to our success.
Yeah, it's awesome. You guys did a great job, pinning those guys deep and then flipped in the field, several times this past week. And I'm just astonished by the numbers that you guys had. When you guys come out of that locker room, it was kind of cool coming out from underneath the bleachers. And it was just kind of like what I always joked around about the Delphus Jefferson or Delphus St. John's team way back when, they just keep pulling out like people coming out of a clown car, just kept coming out. But man.
Yeah, that's a credit to our youth program and our junior high programs for getting those kids out and keeping them out. And then, also, with our special teams, our kickers work extremely hard. We have, somebody that comes in and works with them, and they put in extra time on top of our practice to go out there and work on their craft, and they've been getting better and better all year.
Yeah.
You're kind of talking back to the game. One thing I wanted to touch on is the physicality your program plays with is unlike anything I've ever seen in Northwest Ohio football. Northwest Ohio football in general, with that being said, they get credit for playing physical brand of football, but no one does it quite like you guys. And actually, I had a guy from Napoleon I know, when Napoleon played Glenville said, that was one of the hardest teams we played. And Glenville's a powerhouse in football. But what does that come from? Do you preach to the kids, or does it come naturally for Liberty Center teams, or where does that come from?
Well, I think it's physicality's been ingrained in our program for 40 years. When Rex Lindgren took over, he used to tell the story that he knew he was inheriting a 1-9 team. He started about 5 or 6 freshmen on his first year, and they were 0-10. And he said, I don't really care what the score is. We're going to hit as hard as we can. And that's always been kind of his philosophy. And then, as I took over, we wanted to make sure that type of culture stayed, where we want to be physical. We talk about it and we work at it. I don't think it's something you can just say, hey guys, we're going to go out and be physical, and you go out and do it. You have to work at it. And that's the tricky part, because you can't practice the way they used to practice back in the 80s and 90s, where it was just basically full go scrimmages every day.
Yep.
So early in the year, you have to be careful, and you have to, I think what we do is we have some short periods where we get after it, and it's intense and stuff, but then you got to back off a little bit. And then as the season goes on, we're pretty physical early on, and then about midway we start trying to back off as much as we can with that, just to keep guys healthy. But they've embraced it as a team. They've seen the rewards of it, and so it's something we emphasize a lot. We take pride in, and it's been very good for us so far.
Yeah, it's great to see, just watching it, because in a day and age where everyone's running the spread offense, they're getting the ball out to guys, they call it basketball on grass, things like that. I mean, you guys your form tackling is phenomenal. Your hits are huge. They're always big plays, but it's just awesome to see. And I think a lot of people, they really look up to Liberty Center as a program in terms of physicality.
Well, and I would say that, we try to emphasize that, but a lot of that is just the mentality of some of the kids we have is
Sure.
They are hard-nosed kids. They're blue-collar, and they enjoy the physicality. And a lot of that we haven't had to teach. It's just something they like to do, and they go out and we have to rein them in sometimes at practice, even, because they don't care how old you are, who you are, or anything like that. They're gonna get after it. So we have to dial that back some at practice. But we've gotten some penalties this year because of it. But at the same time, it's been a big reason for our success.
Sure.
One thing I want to go back on is you talked about a little bit the youth programs and some of the success you guys are having there. And I've heard rumors about how involved you are down there, and just like, you start to know some of the kids' names, even at the 5th and 6th grade level. You want to elaborate a little bit on how involved you are there?
I'm not as involved as what I was kind of when the youth program got revamped. I was more involved because my son was involved in it, and he started out in like preschool, and so I was there, watching him and kind of involved a little bit. At that time, now he's a sophomore in high school, so I'm not as involved, but a lot of the guys who are helping coach are guys that maybe I coached, when I was in my younger assistant coaching days, or I played with. And so they understand the culture of our high school program. They understand what we're trying to accomplish with the youth program. And so they've bought in, and it's just been really good, and we've got it established now as this is the way we do things. And other places do things a little bit different, but this is what we feel like is going to work for us. And so for the most part, we get good buy-in, and we have great participation. We put on a youth camp every summer, and we get the kids out on the field and interacting with the older players, and we encourage players to go to the youth games on the weekends. A lot of them have siblings that play, and if they don't, we say, get out there and just walk around and help them out. It's like herding cats sometimes with those younger kids. So, but if they're there, those kids want to be around our high school players and just if they can get out there and make an impact, that's what we try to encourage.
Do you allow them down on the sideline? Some or
the youth players?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple home games a year where we do like a youth run through. We run through the tunnel and we come on and we allow the youth players to run first, and then we'll follow behind them. And that's a big deal to those kids to get to run through the tunnel. And then we've got a lot of ball boys on our sideline. I don't even know who they all are.
Yeah, we saw that on Friday.
That's why I was asking that.
What's awesome is, they're there before the game playing football, and I don't know if some people might discourage that, but if they're there playing football, I think it's awesome. And at practice, they should be helping out, getting water bottles and stuff, but they're usually playing football somewhere. You don't say too much because, you look at it and say, this is, when I was a kid, that's what I wanted to do. My son was a ball boy, and that's what he did. And, I tell the parents, I said, look, I don't care if they're a ball boy or they help out, but I ain't babysitting them. So they could be walking uptown and going down to the creek or whatever, but they love being there. And so that's part of our community's love for football, and it starts at a young age, and we try to encourage that.
Keith, did you have a question?
Yes, I did, Coach. We've talked to Caleb Pullman quite a bit in the last couple of weeks off and on, and sometimes I think Caleb actually wants to strap on the helmet and get in there, but he was like the first set of triplets. Could you talk to us about the Cruise triplets, like the intensity and what's it like to coach and practice? That was probably what you talked about earlier, like reining them back in practice, I would imagine.
Yeah, they have certainly raised the level of intensity of our program at practice. There's like no in between with them. They're always on. And they're intense. And even when they came in as freshmen, they were like 140, 150 pounds, and they didn't back down from anybody. They went as hard as they could every time. And then every year they've gotten a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, and that mentality has never changed. And they've been in trouble for fighting at practice. They've been in fights at games when they were freshmen. And it's just constantly at each other, and that mentality is just kind of how they play. That's how they've been together. I think they're probably fighting each other in their mom's womb, and they're intense. And they've got a younger brother who's a freshman that you throw him in the mix, and it's a party everywhere they go because they're competitive is what it is.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure once you get one started, the other two jump in.
Oh yeah, it's like piranhas, they're constantly just, going at the meat in the water, and but it rubs off on everybody else, and they see not only, at practice, but in the weight room, they're warriors. They play basketball, but they're lifting before school. After practice, they go to the weight room, and they don't miss. They have to be told, you need to back off a little bit here. You're in a season. But you look at why do they have success? It's the work they put in, and they've been committed, and they're very intense. And the other thing people probably don't know is how intelligent they are. Their football IQ is unbelievable, and that's part of the reason for their success individually, and our team's success is, we can do things schematically that they pick up on right away. They watch a ton of film, and they can figure out what other teams are doing and what they want to do, and then they can diagnose it and go get it.
Speaking of some of the players on your guys' team, we were talking to some of the fans and the staff and things like that on Friday night. Got talking about Landon Bockelman. One of them informed us that back after the Archbold game, you guys were doing some sprints. You were making the team run a little bit, and he was running backwards about as fast as some of your running backs. Is that true? Or sounds like he's a pretty quick athlete for his size.
Yeah, he's a big kid, but he what makes him so good is he's not a big, fat, sloppy kid. He can move. He's quick. He plays basketball. You watch him play basketball, and he's got good footwork, which I think has helped him tremendously in football. But he's strong as an ox. Just he bales hay for fun and shows cattle, and it's just he's a hard worker, and he's a weight room warrior. He's probably one of the strongest kids we've ever had in our program at everything. It's not just a bench press or a squat or a power clean. It's everything. And he's a great kid, and he helps the younger guys. We watch film, and he's coaching up the defensive line about things and the offensive line. And he picked that up from Owen Box last year, and just helps people and is a nice kid, but just a tremendous worker.
Awesome.
Is he the fastest kid on the team?
He's not the fastest kid on the team, but for a 265-pound kid, he moves really well.
Yeah, so it's what we heard. That's what somebody said today, who's actually probably one of the fastest kids on the team. Like, oh, that's a big boy to be moving that fast. But hey, I have a question for you, Coach. With the change in it, coming out of Zyder, graduating last year at Amsterdam and watching him grow this year. I know AJ brought it up last week, and about your passing game, and we kind of saw it, and AJ kind of pointed on it, like you guys were playing around a little bit there towards the end of the season, like you guys were trying to throw the ball, and obviously this past weekend you come out, you throw the ball first down, which was not a Liberty Center play, right? We don't see you guys throw the ball that much, and throwing the ball first play of the game. So can you elaborate on Amsterdam's playing quarterback and how that's working out for you?
Well, we've always known Landon has a lot of ability as a quarterback, but last year he was injured for up until probably like week 8 of the regular season. And then he got hurt early in June this year and really wasn't able to do anything until about a week before our first game. So he didn't play against Tenora. I think he got cleared that day by the doctor, and we said he needs at least a week before he can go. So he started against Napoleon, but has a grasp of the offense, and that's never been an issue, but just physically getting the reps was a big deal. But it's gotten better and better each week, and towards the middle of the season, we knew we got to work on our passing game a little bit, so we've been trying to do it as much as we can in games. Sometimes it's hard, though, when you have a running clock early in the second half and you're not playing your starters. So he didn't get a lot of opportunity. But going into last week, we knew we were going to have to be able to throw the ball a little bit. And as aggressive as they were, we wanted to take a shot early. And he kind of knew exactly what we were looking for, the look we thought we would get. And he took it, and he put the ball right where it needed to be. And Landon Cruz made a nice play on it, but his decision making, was spot on last week and made all the right throws and the right decisions and just did a really nice job for us.
Good.
All right, a couple more questions here, Coach, and we'll wrap things up. The next one I had, it was actually submitted by another head football coach in Northwest Ohio, but he wanted to know, having success is one thing. What do you feel it has taken to sustain success from year to year?
There's a lot that goes into success, I think. You got to have kids who are committed, and going around to clinics and listening to some of the guys who win year in and year out, like a Tiger Laverde or a Tim Goodwin. They talk about how hard their kids work year round, and so that's one of the things that we've really tried to implement. And we've got kids that are at it all the time. Like the day after the seasons, they want to get in the weight room, and it's we have to say we're taking a month off here, but they're sneaking in somewhere, whether they go uptown to a gym or something like that. They're getting to work. You get an administration that is supportive, which we have, is a tremendous help. There were some years at Liberty Center where maybe we had some administrators that weren't necessarily super supportive, and we've gotten that changed. And then the community, I think that's huge. If you look at the following we get at our games, it's unbelievable. We pulled into Clay last week and get there a little bit after 5, and there were people lined up at the gate. There were people tailgating, and it's like we're a really small school, and this is what people want to do, and so you got to have a community that supports you. You got to have the administration and then the kids. And I think the kids are committed because the community's committed. The parents are committed. They understand, and you got to put in the time and the hours, and you got to have a great coaching staff that's committed as well, that's willing to put in time. I've got great coaches that they sacrifice their own kids' events sometimes to be at football and things like that, but it's just what's expected, I guess, from our community, and it's paid huge dividends for us.
Yeah, and I like how you talked about the community. That was actually a point I was going to mention too. At one point during the game, I looked up and took a video, and I looked up into the crowd, and I said it earlier to the guys. I said there had to be all of Liberty Center and then add like another 2,000 people there too. Absolutely incredible. And I say, with Liberty Center, it's almost movie-esque, like the small town, stereotypical football team that grinds out, they work hard, and the whole town and city is on board with them. It's just awesome to see what you guys have going over at Liberty Center.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things there isn't much going on in Liberty Center. So other than football, that's all you have to do. But the community's super supportive, and they're great. And, you appreciate them so much, and you probably don't get a chance to say it enough. And, but, I thought Clay had a very nice, big stadium. Had never been there. And I turned around, I think, right before the game and saw how full the stands were. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then, I know people watch online as well. And I know the LC Sports Live broadcast has thousands of people watching online each week. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. We kind of joked around about all the people in the stands and how small Liberty Center is. We kind of felt bad for the person who had to stay back and deliver pizzas or run the gas station.
Well, not many people ordering pizzas.
Yeah, probably not. Probably just shut her down.
All right. Well, last question I have for you, Coach. Coldwater is up next on the schedule. Coldwater comes from the great powerhouse, the MAC Conference. Everyone knows. You guys actually faced them last season. You won 34-0. So it's a rematch in the playoffs again for Division 5 Region 18 title. What does this week's matchup look like, and what will it take for Liberty Center to get a win?
The matchup obviously is going to be pretty daunting for us because, anytime you play a team out of the MAC, they're going to be very, very good. And we played them last year, and we've talked about, last year's game really doesn't have any bearing on this year.
Sure.
We're a completely different team than we were last year, and Coldwater is a much different team than what they were. So the matchups are a little bit different. They're schematically, defensively, they're a little bit different than they were last year, and offensively, they're probably a little bit more balanced. They've run the ball a little bit more, a little bit better than they did last year. Last year's quarterback was injured and kind of came back for our game, so he wasn't 100%, but he was more of a running threat. This year's quarterback doesn't run much, but he's got a very good arm. He's got a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns, and they have really good athletes all over the place. And if you look at their offense and defensive line, they're not very big, but they're very athletic. And they move well. They run to the ball. They get on blocks, and they stay on. And it's, at this size of schools, athletic linemen are almost better than real big linemen that don't move well because they can get up on level 2 and shield you and everything else. So it's going to be tough, as athletic as they are, and they're not small, but they're not trotting out 300-pound kids either. Right. So it's going to be a tough matchup. We're going to have to keep the lid on their offense a little bit because they like to go deep and take shots, and the receivers have great ball skills, and you watch on film, teams have great coverage and they come down with the ball. And they're not big receivers either. They're 5'10", 5'11", but they go up and get it, and they've got great speed. And so it's going to be tough. And I don't think we're going to have a 34-0 game like we did last year. So.
All right. Well, Coach, we want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy week to join us tonight. Good luck this Friday, and good luck the rest of the playoffs.
Thank you for having me on. Go Tigers. Good luck, Coach.
We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors. Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty is a top real estate agent in Northwest Ohio. Crystal's compassion and enthusiasm allow her to find that special property or house just for you. Located in Bryan, Ohio, give her a call today at 419-799-1243. Jimenez Basketball Academy strives to create an atmosphere to cultivate basketball fundamentals in Northwest Ohio youth athletes, offering one-on-one sessions, group sessions, speed and agility training, and much more. Located in Pettisville, Ohio, call Coach Jesse today at 419-551-8105. The Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and one quick point. I know we've kind of got away from it, but we're going to do player of the game. So the games that we attend, we'll go ahead and decide a player of the game. And from last week, that was Trent Cruz from Liberty Center, running back linebacker. Again, he had 15 carries, 118 rushing yards, 7.9 yards a carry, 2 rushing touchdowns. He had that huge hit on the sideline on Oak Harbor's quarterback. That's very deserving of player of the game. And this was a tough decision. Actually, I decided myself because I told the guys we're going to start doing this because we had enough shirts. So I picked. But, all 3 of the Cruz brothers, it could have gone to any of them. Amstutz had a great game. Bockelman and Navarre had a great game. Honestly, if I had enough shirts, I'd give the whole entire team one because they all played tough. They all played great football. So actually, I apologize, Trent, because I was supposed to I told him I would send the shirt with Coach Moeller, and I forgot. So I will get him the shirt. I'm in the process of getting all those shirts shipped out to player of the week. So there's that. But we'll go into our hot takes presented by BSN Sports. Again, this is one of our favorite I shouldn't say one of our favorite. It is probably our favorite. A lot of great conversation here for the hot takes. Again, these are a lot of some fan submitted hot takes, and usually Sunday I kind of submit those out. So keep submitting them. There's a lot of good ones. But in the meantime, we have our sub segment with buying or selling, and we've really gotten into this. Kind of spices the hot take section up. So we'll go ahead, we'll roll through, and the guys will decide, are they buying or agreeing with the statement, or are they selling and disagreeing with the statement? So without further ado, we'll get things rolling.
I'm not going first.
Here we go. Keith will go first. We'll roll through. I'll have, let's go Keith, AJ, myself, and then Tony. How about that?
I think each category, each topic, what different person goes first.
We can do that.
That sounds good.
And I don't want the first one.
The first one's a tough one. We're going to start it off with the doozy. So the first buy or sell. What Patrick Henry has done this year is more impressive than what Liberty Center has done with 30 less kids. Keith, are you buying or selling?
That one I'm going to buy.
Why are you buying?
Why am I buying? This is no disrespect to Liberty Center whatsoever, but which we talked about earlier. For those who just kind of fast forward through our podcast, shame on you. Number one, number two, when you lose basically probably an all-state quarterback and your center, who's probably first-team center, and wide receiver, then you got to take a wide receiver to quarterback throughout the middle of the season and just kind of throw him in there and see what happens. And which I touched upon earlier, is outside of the state championship, probably Coach I's greatest coaching job this year to have Patrick Henry playing for the right to go to state with this team, as it's just basically sewn together right now, is actually amazing what he's done with this team. So I'm buying that one.
AJ, buying or selling?
I'm going to go ahead and buy as well. Same thing, Keith. No disrespect for Liberty Center. They've done fantastic things this year. I think they've had a running clock in every single game, pretty close to it. So that's fantastic. But Patrick Henry doing as well as they are with the injuries and the things they've overcome with 30 less kids, mind you, they don't have the, who's next mentality. They've got to play with what they got. So it's pretty cool to see them hang in there with the adversity.
For myself, I am going to have to buy. I think these guys hit it right on the money. Again, Liberty Center has had a phenomenal year, but the adversity that Patrick Henry and the football program has gone through due to injuries and adjusting, because they've had to adjust their offense, we've seen, because we all know that Nash was not a quarterback to necessarily go out and run the ball 20, 30 times a game, and now Lincoln Krieger's running it some. He's throwing the ball. So they've had to adapt. A lot of the kids have stepped up into roles. Coaches, I'm sure, have asked those kids to go out and try to produce a little bit more or put them into positions they may not be comfortable in. Lincoln was playing wide receiver, and like I said earlier in the season, Patrick Henry had 1A and 1B with Lincoln Krieger and Landon Johnson there, both excellent wide receivers in the NWO and even in the state. And then all of a sudden, Lincoln goes from wide receiver to quarterback and has done an excellent job at taking over. And like Keith said, a lot of other injuries. They continue to go out and prove people wrong. So I'm going to have to buy with that statement. Tony, buying or selling?
This is a tough one for me, honestly. I agree with everything you guys are saying, but when you look back at Liberty Center's season and everything that they've done, like Keith mentioned earlier, being better, statistically wise, basically than last year's team. And we thought last year's team was awesome. Yep. But, when it comes down to the end, guys, I got to go with you guys. I got to buy because like you guys have already stated, what Patrick Henry has had to overcome this year to get to where they're at is very impressive.
The next point here, Liberty Center would not be undefeated in the WBL. AJ, are you buying or selling?
This is a tough one. WBL, given, in this season specifically, I think they would be, but on any given season, any given year, I'm going to say I would sell. I think they come up against a lot more evenly matched competition. And obviously Liberty Center, they have a very strong program consistently over there, but I think, if you take 10 years worth of football, I think majority of those seasons they come out with a loss or two here and there.
Oh, so you're saying that you're agreeing with it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
would not be undefeated.
I would buy that. Yep, I would buy. I don't think they would be undefeated.
Yeah, the not in that sentence really kind of makes it confusing.
Sorry. I think they would definitely have a loss or two on any given year.
Again, this is a tough one, but for myself, I'm going to sell. I think this year, this is one of the deepest Liberty Center teams I've ever seen. The amount of depth, the amount of physicality. We talked to Coach earlier that they're playing with. I think this is one of the best, football teams in general I've seen in Northwest Ohio in a long time. And I know the Western Buckeye League is a tough league, but again, running the ball. And I think if they had to in the WBL, obviously they're bigger schools. They could obviously control the clock as well. That plays to their advantage, kind of playing that keep away mentality. We talked about Patrick Henry earlier. I think they could. I think they could have pulled off possibly an undefeated season in the WBL. And that's no joke. I think that they have the talent there. Offensive line, defensive line, special teams is performing well. Offense, their skilled players are some of the better ones out there. You talk about, they got triplets that are going out there and making plays. They got Landon Amstutz that can show he can throw the ball when asked. And just the brand of football they play, I don't think a lot of teams can handle that, and they don't like that. So for that, I'm selling, and I think Liberty Center could have gone undefeated in the WBL this season. Yep.
I would like to clarify this season specifically. I would definitely sell on that, but I think over the course of multiple years averaged out, I would buy it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. If you're talking about this year. Yeah, sell. On average, I don't know. I mean, the last 2 years, I want to say over the last 2 years, I think Liberty Center goes undefeated in WBL. The last year's team and this year's team, especially this year. I think the WBL beat themselves up enough.
They did.
There was nobody that was really just dominant in the WBL this year, in my opinion. They all had great seasons and all played well, but nobody was really just standing out there. Van Wert wasn't the dominant team. Salina wasn't dominant. Everybody was kind of beating themselves up. And so I think Liberty Center would have handled their business in the WBL, in my opinion, this year. If you go with what AD was saying, over a 10-year span, no, they wouldn't go undefeated every year. But I don't think over a 10-year span they're going to go undefeated every year in the NWO.
Yeah. Right. Sure.
So,
Keith, buying or selling? Liberty Center would not be undefeated in the WBL.
Yeah, this is you guys pretty much hit everything on the head. I'll buy that one.
So you're saying Liberty Center would go undefeated this year or would not?
I would say they would not. So
buy.
I guess buying.
That's what I said. This question's worded weird.
They would not go undefeated only because what you guys already hit the nail on. I mean, tried to hit the nail on the head, but I just think every Friday night in the WBL, you just have to play your A game to go undefeated in the WBL. Just to get up every single Friday night, which the NWOAL isn't far behind. I just don't think they have the talent level of the WBL. So I just think to get up, obviously you have a couple, your bottom feeder teams in the WBL, just like you have in the NWAL, but every Friday night, just similar to Defiance, they went through that 5 or 6 game period where every Friday night they had to bring their A game. So I just don't know that Liberty Center could do that. I'm not doubting Liberty Center's talent whatsoever. It just takes a lot of energy every Friday to get up, like you're playing your playoff game every Friday. So
I think Liberty Center could have done it. Definitely not going to have running clocks.
Oh,
but I definitely think they could have won the games. There's not a team in the WBL this year that I don't think Liberty Center could have beat. Not having running clocks in the games like they did with everybody else, and having everybody sit on the bench. But like Keith said, eventually every Friday night, you're getting people wore down a lot worse if you're only playing half to 3/4 of a game versus playing every game and playing deep into the fourth quarter every game. So,
all right, next one here, we're looking at Patrick Henry having an easier schedule than the University of Michigan. And hey, now I'm a Michigan fan here, so Michigan's having a great season, and I don't care what anyone says, go blue. But looking at this statement, Patrick Henry having an easier schedule than University of Michigan, I'm going to say I am a hard sell. With that, Patrick Henry has the number 16th toughest schedule in all of Division 7 out of 110 schools, according to Drew Pasture. I think they've been battle tested. I don't know why. I don't even know why this is a buy or sell statement. You look, they played Columbus Grove in their non-conference. Just looking at some other teams, I know that they played Wayne Trace wasn't terrible. Hicksville a little bit easier, but still, They play in the NWAL. I know I talked to some people and some other coaches, and I think they kind of said that the NWAL was down a little bit this year, which I think you could argue that in multiple conferences. Maybe I said the Green Meadows Conference, maybe too. But nonetheless, they beat or they played. I know we didn't bring it up earlier, but Liberty Center played and beat 7 teams that were in playoff teams. So you look at out of those teams, I believe, how many teams in the NWL? Talking about Patrick Henry.
8 total.
So 8 teams. Bryan made playoffs. Wasion made playoffs. Liberty Center made playoffs. Archbold made playoffs.
PH.
Yeah. Columbus Grove made playoffs. So PH has played 5 playoff teams this season.
Right.
So I think that's a hard sell for me.
For me, I'm the same way. I'm a sell. I'm going to sell big time because PH played against Columbus Grove. I know they lost. They played against Liberty Center, and I know they lost.
No, PH won against Columbus Grove.
Oh, they did beat.
They
Okay,
did.
I'm sorry.
Won by like 30.
So you're looking at the schedule, and you're saying it's an easy schedule, but. Dude, 2 of those teams are going for the regional championship this weekend. You know what I mean? So,
right.
And they beat one and lost to one. So how do you say that that's an easy schedule? And not to mention the Archbold. Archbold was tough too, but unfortunately, once you get into playoffs, you got to play the good teams. And the team that beat Archbold, Coldwater, is who's playing Liberty Center this weekend. So no, I'm not in agreement with that one. University of Michigan plays a way easier schedule. Had to throw that out there.
I hear you. Hey, one more week and then we'll see what happens
Yeah, I
here.
know.
So we'll see if my team steals some more signs from you guys and help them out. Actually, did you guys see that real quick? The celebration. I had to laugh because JJ McCarthy, he has a really good relationship with Coach Harbaugh. But after they scored, he had his binoculars on. He was looking
my
around the
gosh.
stadium. It was pretty funny because I think the Penn State guy was doing it and he kind of mocked him as well. But that was pretty comical.
That's funny.
Keith, are you buying or selling Patrick Henry having an easier schedule than the University of Michigan?
That's an easy sell. You guys pretty much already nailed everything, so not really too much to discuss on my part. You had Columbus Grove on your schedule. You beat them by approximately 30 points, and Columbus Grove is playing for a right to go to state this year. So
yeah, PH beat them 40-28 in week 3 of the season.
So that pretty much answers that question with that victory right there.
AJ, buying or selling?
And nothing gets easier than Michigan's schedule. No, I'm just kidding. Just gotta rag on you.
guys. Hey, I'm telling you,
gotta
one more
rag on
week
you.
for a three-peat for the Wolverines. So we're waiting for that.
No, I think Patrick Henry has actually played a fairly tough schedule, and especially with the adversity they fought through to play that schedule. I think they deserve every accolade they're getting right now.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Liberty Center should be in the Cardinal, which is the small division of the Northern Lakes League. Tony, we got to kick things off with you. Buying or selling?
No, I'm going to sell. I think Liberty Center is good where they're at. Plain and simple.
Why?
I just think Liberty Center fits well in the NWAL. There's other teams around them that may not be. I think the NWAL with Liberty Center, PH, Archbold, they're all smaller schools. They're D5 schools. And when you get into the small division of the Cardinal, but you start getting into that NLL and you start playing other teams and you start getting, there's no reason for them to be playing the D1 schools, D2 schools, if they have to. And I think they fit in there well. I think maybe the NWAL needs to bring some different teams into that and kick some people out maybe. I'm not, saying that, but I would rather see Liberty Center stay where they're at. I think they fit well in that conference. I think that conference is a really, really good conference.
Keith, buying or selling? Liberty Center should be in the Cardinal small division of the Northern Lakes League.
That's a sell. Just like Tony said, like the enrollment differential, like Napoleon, I think is one of the smaller schools.
I believe they are the smallest.
And they probably have 450 enrollment, and Liberty Center probably is upper 200s, say like 280. So we got 200 less kids. I mean, that's a big differential. So talent-wise, could they play with those guys? Obviously. I mean, they beat Napoleon almost every year. So, but just as far as everything else, that's a lot to ask.
Well, speaking of that real quick, Napoleon had a chance to win the small division of the Northern Lakes League. And Liberty Center went out and took the care of business against Napoleon as well. So, I mean, that kind of gives you a little sample size of, maybe how they would compete. Obviously, it's just one game, and you can take it worth a grain of salt. But, nonetheless, Napoleon still ended up having a pretty good year.
I'm going to sell this as well. I completely agree with you, Coach, over there. I think Liberty Center is exactly where they need to be. I love see in the NWOAL. I do think that they could, if they restructure a little bit with some of those lower teams, they could end up being a next like MAC conference. They're very impressive, top to about the middle. I guess I can't say top to bottom, but Liberty Center, Archbold, Patrick Henry, even Wasion a little bit.
Even
Bryan can hold their own, depending on how their defense this year was holding up a little bit. Their offense was right there at the top. You start phasing out maybe some of the teams that just consistently can't compete at all in that conference. Let them find their place. Bring in some other teams that can compete, and you could be looking at like a rival to the MAC conference.
For myself, I think that's an intriguing question because I think, like Keith said, I think Liberty Center could go and compete. And honestly, I think they could have probably won a title this year. But nonetheless, I think the NWOAL, I think isn't labeled as the oldest conference in the state of Ohio.
One of.
Well, yeah, I think that's something about that. But, it's been a staple. They play other schools similar size. I don't think you necessarily bump them out of the league just because they're having success. I think, some of the other schools need to kind of step up too, maybe to a sense, but at the same time, I think Liberty Center, they're fit very well in the NWAL. So it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk, especially with conference realignment among all levels, but it'd be interesting to see if, maybe they bring some other teams in that could make it more competitive. Maybe like AJ said, make the NWAL the next best small town football conference in the state of Ohio. So who knows? But for that, I am selling. So next one. Nobody understands the difference between playing in D5 and playing in Division 7. Who are we swinging it to now?
Keith. That's
Keith. I think we're up to you.
Nobody understands the difference between D5 and D7. Are we talking general public or I'm going to sell that. I'm going to guess most knowledgeable football fans know the difference between D5 and D7. I mean,
I guess what they're probably asking is, probably the level of talent, quality of teams, things like that. I don't know. I guess that's how I was personally taking it.
Yeah, it's I don't sell still, but there's not a big difference, but there's still a difference between D5 and D7. I mean, you have your quality D7 teams, but your quality D5 teams. But as far as probably looking at, I'm going to guess about 20 kids different on the sidelines every Friday night, give or take.
I think with this question, you have to throw out the outlier of like your Marion local.
Yeah, right.
Because
yes.
sometimes Marion local is in Division 6 or Division 7, depending on the year. But they can go out and they've shown they've beat Wapakoneta, which is sometimes a Division 3, Division 4 type school.
Right. Yep. Like talent-wise, it's a little bit better in Division 5 than Division 7. I mean, there's really no. I don't think that's an argument there.
So, AJ, are you buying or selling? Nobody understands the difference between playing in Division 5 and playing in Division 7.
Like you said, Keith, I'm going to sell here just because I think anybody that knows football does know the difference. And I think the biggest difference isn't necessarily the level of talent, it's the amount of talent. I think at D7, you still get some of those really, really good athletes. You just get a lot less of them.
Yep.
And I think D5, you start getting a few more options as far as who's going to be your quarterback. You might have 2 or 3 options instead of just one. You start getting a little bit more spread on the talent level. So, and that's what makes the big difference there between D5 and D7 is the amount of talent you have to choose from.
For myself, let's see here. I'm going to buy. The reason I'm buying is because I get all these hot takes from kids, send them in each week. And some people are like, oh, I can go compete with this or compete with that. And I don't think they understand that there is a difference. I do think there's a difference in talent level between the divisions. Like AJ said, I think it's the amount, but there's a huge difference. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And a lot of times they'll say, for example, Patrick Henry can go out and I don't know, beat a Liberty Center. Liberty Center's Division 5, Patrick Henry's Division 7. We've seen how that ends up. But I think for the general public, for a lot, and even a lot of athletes, they just kind of get this misconception that no matter what, they can go out there and they can beat these bigger schools and things like that. So for that, I'm going to buy just because I know where some athletes' mindsets are in Northwest Ohio.
I'm with you, Logan. I'm buying that one as well for the exact same reasons. I think people think that if you're talking about the general public or the football knowledgeable people, yes, they understand it. For the people out there who don't know football, no, they don't. I don't think they understand the difference between D5 and D7. They think that their D7 school is really good this year, and we could go beat Liberty Center. And you're not comparing apples to apples. And you mentioned the young kids that are sending these things, and think about yourself, Logan. You're a great athlete, great football player. Go to Ohio State and think about the level of competition you're going to face.
Right.
Playing at Finley, I'm not taking anything away from you, but you when you go to that level, and I always tell the kids this that I coach, you might be a big fish in this pond, but everybody is the big fish no matter what level you go to, no matter what level of college you go to, they're the big fish.
Right.
And so when you start comparing D7s to D5s, like AJ mentioned, you're going to have more of those fish to choose from when you go from 7 to 5. And it's the same thing when you go to college. So I don't think people understand that, you might have one or two of those big fish in your group when you're a D7, but when you're a D5, like Coach Muller said, he's got kids down there and he's got a great scout team and he's looking, and then he's got great practices because he's got other talent that's pushing his starters, right? When you're a D7, your starters are playing against freshmen. That's your scout team because you don't have anybody else. So, yeah.
Hey, but I will say, when I was at Finley, I know for a fact we could go out there and compete with MAC schools because we used to get Bowling Green transfers all the time down the road to Finley. And some of these kids would be starters, and then they would leave for whatever reason, academics. They got in trouble for something, and we would end up with them at Finley.
Yeah.
And, a lot of these kids, like some of those kids actually started for BG, and they would get dogged by there's some good talent.
I know.
And that's kind of like what AJ says, the amount of talent. There is excellent. Look at, what's the Bears quarterback, the Badgett kid. I can't think of his first name.
Tyler, I believe.
Yeah, I played against him twice at Finley in the playoffs.
Really?
Kid's a phenomenal athlete. Played in Division II, won the Harlan Hill, and now he's starting. I know he's a backup, but for Justin Fields being out. But it goes to show that, relating it back to high school football in Division VII, there's great athletes like Landon Johnson, all Ohio kid, Nash Meyer. Those guys are diamonds in the rough in those smaller divisions. But for the most part, I mean, it comes down to Division V. The higher division typically has just more of those athletes. Right. And I don't think there are a lot of athletes, and there's a lot of people that I don't think necessarily understand that. Yep. So, next one. Once Liberty Center beats Coldwater, that state title is there. AJ, are you buying or selling?
I'm going to sell on this one. I don't think that beating Coldwater is the end-all, be-all. I think Coldwater is going to be a beatable team this week. I know, obviously, Coach Muller is going to have his sights on winning that game, but I don't think that one's going to be the deciding factor because there's that Perry team that we keep hearing a lot about, and we here don't know a lot about them, but we keep hearing that's going to be the team that's going to compete with Liberty Center. And I think obviously they've got to get past Coldwater this week, but I think going down the road, they've got a lot more competition. I mean, it's state. You don't play the scrub teams. From here on out, you're playing the absolute best of the state.
And actually, the state of Ohio just released the regional matchups for the semifinal and state game. So if Liberty Center were to win, they and Perry were to win, they won't match up until the state championship game. So that's how that would work out. And
I wonder if they thought about that. You know what I mean?
Well, that was another thing too. Is I was wondering how, does the state look at the final teams in each region, and do they kind of plan out? Do they look at maybe geographically? How do teams match up? From a travel standpoint, do they pick this team out of this region, this one, because it's going to be closer proximity? Or do they look at talent? Let's see this game in a championship game, or you know what I mean? I wonder how they kind of go about that.
Well, based on the way some of the earlier games went, I don't know that geographically close is really a concern.
I was going to say, I don't think the state really gives a crap about how far you got to drive.
They're probably just trying to piece together state championship games.
Make two teams drive 3 hours apiece to play, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true too. But for myself, I'm going to have to sell. I agree with AJ. Because Coldwater, it's not the end-all, be-all, because there's that Perry team, and we need to learn about this. All we keep referring to them as that Perry team.
Perry Pirates.
Is that what they are?
Yes.
Do you know where they're at?
I do not.
I looked them up one time. AJ, you want to look up where they're at?
Yeah. Sure.
We've talked about them all year long. I feel like we have related to Liberty Center as Superman, and this Perry team is possible kryptonite for them. And for some reason, we don't know much about them. So we need to do some more education on this Perry team and see, what they're about. But nonetheless, I think, again, I'm selling this one because they beat Coldwater, there's still one more game to get to the state championship, and then they have to win that game as well. So for that, I am selling.
Perry is north.
It looks like
between Cleveland and Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
it's like
way up in the north
right
corner.
up 90.
Okay.
It's like my wife's area of Ohio.
Yeah, it's
up in Ashtabula.
Not Lima Perry, mind you.
No, yeah, it's on the other side of Cleveland.
That's right.
On the other side of Cleveland. But for me, guys, I'm selling that as well. It doesn't get easier as you go on. You know, Patrick Henry beat Coldwater last year, or Liberty Center beat Coldwater last year, and then then they came out and they got battle tested a little bit against Elmwood, and just they rolled into that state semifinal last year and then got beat. So I guarantee you, the boys have an end in sight, but it's not going to be taken for granted at all. And I don't think it's theirs. They're going to have to go get it.
In the moment, as a team, as soon as I've been a part of teams like this before. As soon as you get a moment like you feel like you can catch your breath, that's when things go. Like you cannot ease off the gas.
Right.
It's got to be all gas, no brakes from here on out, because as soon as you ease up a little bit, those teams are going to take advantage. They're going to exploit you, and they're going to end up winning. And then all of a sudden, like that, your season's over. So
absolutely.
Keith, buying or selling? Once Liberty Center beats Coldwater, that state title is there.
Sell.
Why are you selling?
Again, you guys pretty much already covered everything, but Coach Moeller is probably preaching us every single day. Don't look ahead. You still got to win this Friday night. So whatever's in your future, you can't control that. You can only control what you can control, and that's you got to win your next game.
Very well said. Next one. Holgate and Toledo Christian are going to be at it again next year. Trying to think of who we left off.
That's you. I think.
That is me. Okay. For myself, I'm going to sell. Reason being, I think Toledo Christian will be there. Holgate's got some questions to answer. They lose some key players, Dylan Becker. They lose Xavier McCord. There's some really good talent on that Holgate team it's going to be lost, and Holgate's going to have to fill those gaps. And for that, Toledo Christian, man, they bring back a lot of kids. Very, very talented 8-man team. So for that, I think it's going to depend on whether Holgate can replace those kids, coach them up, and get back to that point. But I think Toledo Christian will definitely be there in 8-man. So I am selling. Tony, buying or selling?
Sell for me. Same reasons. I just think they're going to be losing some talent. It's going to be a rebuild, and I don't think they're going to be able to reload fast enough to be able to compete with Toledo Christian next year.
Keith, buying or selling? Holgate and Toledo Christian are going to be at it next year.
Selling that one. That's one of those rivalries I hope to continue in the future, but Coach Wagner over there at Holgate's got to find himself somebody to replace Xavier McCord, and hopefully he can do that, because Xavier was heck of an athlete over there. So,
and pretty much their offense.
Yep.
I mean,
AJ?
I'm going to sell for pretty much the same reasons here. Just concerned about what Holgate brings back next year.
All right, next one. This is the best Liberty Center team ever. Tony.
And I get to go first, huh?
Buying or selling? I don't know.
How do you say that they're the best team ever?
Well, obviously they have 1 or 2 state championships.
they got one for 97.
97, they won a state championship. So, I mean, at this point, I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell because you can't say this year's team's the best ever yet, right? You haven't won the state championship. So
True.
How do you say they're the best ever? Could they be? Statistical wise and all that stuff, you start looking at all the statistics and wins and losses and all that, I think that's going to be better than the 97 team. But in my opinion, until you put that trophy on the mantle, you're not the best ever.
Keith, buying or selling?
Coach Fairchild nailed everything. Sell. Can't say that you're the best if you actually haven't won a state title. 97 teams won a state title. You always say you can't compare teams from different eras. Like, hey, let's compare the 97 team to this 2023 team. Probably in this instance, you probably can, because whatever Liberty Center did in 97, they're still doing in 2023 because nothing has really changed.
Yeah,
I mean, they run the same offense for the most part. They run the same defense. Heck, even some of the kids' names are the same, last names, obviously.
Yeah.
But until you win a title, you can't compare them.
Yeah, we joked around about Moeller. Coach Moeller was actually on that team.
Yes,
now his son's a sophomore.
Correct.
So.
Yep, you're right. Yeah.
AJ, buying or selling? This is the best Liberty Center team ever.
I've got to sell for the same reason. You don't have the title on the wall yet, but one thing that's interesting is now with the expanded playoffs, they do have potential to have a better record.
And they have to play an extra game to get there.
An extra game. So, if they win state this year, I don't think you can argue that definitively they had more wins this year.
Yeah, true statement.
All right. Well, I know all of you guys are talking about, they don't have a trophy yet. perfectly fine. But I myself am buying. Reason I am buying because I believe in them. I'm not saying these guys don't, but I really do. The amount of depth that they have, the dominance that they had during the regular season, and AJ, you kind of said it earlier in the interview with Coach Moeller. I feel like you take that first half of the Sonora game, Liberty Center, first game of the year, and you're working out kinks, trying to get everything. And
without their starting quarterback.
Without their starting quarterback, there's a lot of fumbles. It was really sloppy that first half. Ever since then, they have been 110%. Pretty much perfect throughout the whole year. It's been unbelievable. They've played flawless football. They play physical football. Like I said, I don't know that I've ever seen a high school football team in Northwest Ohio play with the physicality that those kids play with. They're very well coached. They're very disciplined for the most part until they start arguing and stuff like that, which Coach Moeller said too at times. But again, I'd rather have that and have to reel back the reins than trying to, kind of pat them to get going. So, that's awesome that team has that. But I'm buying. I think they're going to win a state championship this year, and I think they will be the best Liberty Center team ever. So
I want to go back to the fact, looking at their points scored versus points allowed, they've outscored their opponents 632 to 89, and that's outrageous enough to look at. But the fact that probably half of those points that they've given up have come off of late fourth quarter against a JV team where they happen to score 7 points. You take away 14 points from this playoff game last week. Outside of that was the most points they've been scored on since week one.
Yeah, Sonora scored 14.
Yeah, and most of those
first
points have all been late game points against the JV. So really, realistically, they've probably outscored their opponents 632 to 40.
Yeah, very well said. Next one, Sonora had the worst officiated game of all time. I think who were we at? AJ? Keith. We were all at this game.
I think this is easy.
Boy, that's a buy.
They're talking about the Sonora Winford game, first round playoffs. That's what we're talking about here.
That's a buy. I kind of erased that from my memory and they're not really discuss that too much anymore.
I don't think this is an easy one. Just do boom. I think
everyone puts buy up. So.
I'd find obviously there's probably been worse officiated games, and we're not bashing officials by any means. We're not. It's
just a huge mistake.
It's just you cost a team seniors an additional game for their career. And
it's funny too, because I actually talked to a Sonora football player today, and he said, yeah, obviously there's still some Sonora people or fans that are still salty about that loss. I said, yes, there are, because they're the ones that were sending all these in. So
yeah. And it was just a bad call, and that call was made correctly on the field to start with, and was overturned by somebody who was way too far away to see anything. And it never should have been overturned. After talking to a couple different officials myself, there's no way that should have been overturned from where that guy was at compared to what was seen. There's no way he could have seen anything different than what was already called. So that should never have been overturned. But that's not the only game that Sonora was involved in. It was a controversial call. So
which one are you talking about?
Yeah, so we talk about that. We go back to the Wayne Trace game, where that game kind of did exactly the same way, and unfortunately, it was the exact same officiating crew that did the same thing. So, hey, it is what it is. You play the game, you move on. You can't change it. So.
That's what I was about to say. I understand. You gotta fuss about it in the time being, but now, you got to move on. What's done is done. It's over with. But at the end of the day, it wasn't pretty, but things are all set in stone by now.
Yeah, the one thing that I want to point out is, Sonora did we talked about this before, but Sonora did a fantastic job of that in that game. Pushed that off to the side, came back, got the game tied up, had a chance to win the game in the end, and unfortunately didn't get the ball in the end zone. And if they get the ball in the end zone right there from the 1 yard line, the game's over. Sonora wins, moves on. So, the officials affected the game, but the end result was didn't finish a play.
It's kind of self-inflicted, unfortunately.
All right, last buy or sell take. If Patrick Henry was in a higher division, they wouldn't even make it out of the first round of playoffs. AJ, are you buying or selling?
Let me get my things up here. I would sell that one. It depends on who they match up against. If they match up against a top-tier MAC team, maybe not. But if they match up against really anybody else, they've got a fighting chance against just about anybody in the Northwest Ohio area. So I definitely sell.
Yeah, I agree with you, AJ. I'm selling it. Jeez. Throwing it all around. I am selling as well. Because obviously they went out and they beat Columbus Grove pretty handily in week 3, which we talked about earlier. And Columbus Grove's Division 6. And you talk about Division 5, Division 4. Maybe we're talking a different story, but Patrick Henry can definitely move up in divisions, and they used to actually be quite a bit bigger, I believe. Wasn't it at one point they were like Division 5 almost?
Yes.
Yeah, when their enrollment was up. So, I'm definitely selling on that one. Tony?
I'm kind of torn for this, but I'm going to sell it only because it says make it on the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
I don't think PH makes a deep playoff run if they're in Division 5. Division 6, I don't know. Maybe they can go a little further, but that's why there's divisions, guys. I mean, that's why you don't have small schools playing big schools. I mean, if you put the division, a team like Patrick Henry up against, a Glenville, they're not going to stand a chance. That's why you have divisions. You don't play them against a Division 3 team. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Keith, buying or selling?
Definitely, yep. Would not make it out of the first rounds. Yep, selling. Obviously, they beat several teams that were in the playoffs in Division 5, so answer's already there.
All right, well, that concludes our buy or sells. We are on to the actual hot takes now, and we've got a couple interesting ones. So, guys, this is pretty open, this first one, and it's the best football story of the 2023 season. So, maybe a highlight of a team, a kid. What's been your best memory of this season so far, of the 2023 season?
I don't know. I can think of a couple, but I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know.
I got one. For me, probably one of the best football stories of the 2023 season was the adversity that the Tenor Rams felt, week 3, when Coach Becker's wife passed away. They came up, they had a matchup against Archbold. All the Archbold fans showed up wearing all this stuff to support Coach Becker.
The whole coaching staff wore the shirts. That was awesome.
To me, that's probably one of the best stories that you could write a book on that.
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic point. I don't know how I would top that. That's got to be one of the best football stories I've really ever heard as far as small town football goes. To see a totally separate community dedicate, the game and their student section, everything.
Student section had the banner and everything. That was awesome.
I just don't know how it gets much better than that. That's why I love football so much, because communities just come together. Even in rivalry games, there's still that compassion for each other.
I think that's a nice thing about small town like rural Ohio, Northwest Ohio, is a lot of these communities, a lot of these people work with each other from other communities. Right. They have family members in these communities. And when things happen, I think Northwest Ohio does a really good job at rallying around, whatever matter may be at hand. So that's just awesome to see. So, Keith?
That's the same, really. I mean, guys already touched on it. And the next point would obviously be something that I would bring into the best story, but we'll leave that for our next segment.
Yeah, and I'll kind of bring it in because that's where I'm going with the best story. I agree with you guys. Great story as well. Another one, just so I can be different and throw some more content out there.
Absolutely.
I think the Patrick Henry story, I think that's got to be one of the better ones, considering, this was a year that they brought back a lot of talent. Houston Miranda at running back, Nash Meyer at quarterback, Landon Johnson at wide receiver, all Ohio kid. They were loaded, ready to rock and roll. Bill Enselman, we talked to him at the beginning of the year, said he wanted to throw in a tight end on the ball, be a little bit more physical, and they established that. They're coming out red hot. And then all of a sudden, their starting quarterback, their star All-Ohio quarterback, gets injured, and I think we all kind of thought it. I mean, I think if you're Patrick Henry, we thought they were going to be waving the flag like their season was over.
That was the week of Liberty Center, I believe, as well. So Lincoln Krager, poor Lincoln, is just like, hey, go fight like these 12 alligators.
Exactly.
And swim upstream against them while you're at it.
But again, it's another story of a team facing a lot of adversity. And among Patrick Henry having him hurt, they've had other kids hurt too as well, like Keith stated out. And you know what? They just canceled out all the outside noise, whether it be from us, because I know that we were not really thinking that they could do all that much. And they've canceled all out the noise from all the media, everyone else. And their coaching staff really rallied them. And they've got a good game plan going. And the kids have bought in. And the kids have really stepped up. Like I've said time and time again, like I can't commend Patrick Henry for a good enough effort. But I think that's got to be one of the better stories of the 23 season. for them to go from losing their starting quarterback and all these injuries to making it to a regional final game, I couldn't believe it. Like, if you would have told me that after losing their star athletes that they were going to be in this position, I would have called you a liar. So I think that's got to be one of the top stories. And that leads into the next hot take, which Lincoln Krieger is improving and will be the best NWAL quarterback for the next season. So, Keith, do you want to touch on that?
Oh, boy, yeah. I mean, I think even if you'd ask himself where he was going into the Liberty Center game, where he's at now, he's like completely different player. He's probably just, for us old schoolers, during Fast Times at Ridgemont High, there's a scene where they're playing football where Jefferson's like staring across at the quarterback and the quarterback's like shaking. I would assume Lincoln, well, I'm sure he wasn't, but I'm just, exaggerating a bit, was probably shaking in his boots. And he has probably gone from, say, a JV starter per se to the starting quarterback of a team that could possibly go to state. Yeah. He's just made that big of jump in a limited amount of time. Is just fantastic to see. And
you talk about NWAL, like looking into next season. Yeah. So Wasion loses Trey Parsons. Yep. So there's some good quarterbacks. So they lose him. They lose Brian loses Jace Kepler. He was a first team all conference quarterback. Yep. So you lose first team, second team all conference quarterbacks.
I think Amstoltz is a senior for Liberty Center.
Yeah, so he graduates. Some of those other teams don't really throw it all that much. So I think that's a very valid point. I think the way he continues to improve, and maybe it's a blessing in disguise too, because with Nashmeyer graduating this year, Lincoln Krieger still got another year of eligibility. So you're kind of jump starting your, who's going to be that next guy to step up at quarterback already. And now he's got playoff experience. He's got some big game experience against the big dogs in the NWL like Archbold and Liberty Center, and so he's really developing. So I'd have to agree with that. I think he's the front runner for the best quarterback going into next season. Mm-hmm. So what are your guys' thoughts?
I agree with what you just said. I think he absolutely is probably the front runner in NWAL for the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice having a quarterback coming back that has big game experience like you talked about, Logan. It's nice to see, even with you losing some of the leadership they're going to be losing, they're still going to have Lincoln to turn back on as that leader for the team.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think that one's kind of a no-brainer, but let's move on to the next one. Hot take is, honestly, do divisions really matter in football, and if so, why? And we kind of touched about this on the buy or sell, and I'll kick this off. Obviously, they do, and AJ, that's probably the best way anyone's ever put it. Divisions matter because it's not that there's not talent there, it's the amount of talent. And I agree they do matter, and that's why there's 7 of them in football. And I honestly couldn't really imagine any other way. Could you imagine if there was only like 3 divisions in football?
I think there used to be 3 or 4.
Way back in the day. I mean, could you imagine that now? Could you imagine? So you're grouping teams like, I don't know, let's say small school. So Montpelier, Eden, throwing them into the same category as like a Liberty Center, some other Division 5 schools I'm trying to think of, like an Archbold, things like that. I'm not saying that they couldn't compete, but that's a big difference. And it groups you into some more teams that have that same talent type level and amount of talent. So divisions do really matter. So what are your guys' input?
I agree 100%. That's why I was just talking about a little bit ago. They absolutely 100% matter. That's why you don't play Division 7 teams against Division 2 teams in the playoffs, because there wouldn't be a chance.
Yeah. Could you imagine an Evergreen playing a Toledo Central Catholic?
Right.
And Toledo Central Catholic, they won state in Division 2 last year. Now they're Division 3. And, just saying if some of the schools, or Tenora, for instance, Tenora was Division 6 this year, or even Archbold Division 5, playing like a Toledo Central Catholic in Division 3. If you kind of crammed all those divisions in, it's unreal. Keith, AJ, any thoughts?
I totally agree. It absolutely matter, and we've kind of touched on it already.
That's why they have divisions. I think Indiana at one time had limited divisions, and they had that scenario you guys were talking about. It'd be like Ayersville going against Napoleon, for example, which was actually a possibility. But that's why we have 7 divisions, just to spread the wealth a little bit there. And the talent level, as you guys stated, is just, there's such a big difference.
And speaking of divisions, I don't know if you guys saw this, but in basketball, I think they're looking at expanding from 4 to 7 as well. Did you see that?
Jeez.
That's interesting. I don't know how does that work?
I don't agree with that. What they need to do in basketball is get rid of all the recruiting schools, the Catholic schools, set them in their own division, because that's huge in basketball when they can go out and pull a couple kids in, that are really good athletes. There's only 5 kids on the floor, so it doesn't take much to make a really good team in basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be just 5 divisions in football, actually, when I was kind of researching what you guys were talking.
Yeah.
We have 7, so. This was in 86. I went back to kind of like my senior year, way back in the day.
I know,
we had 5 divisions back then.
I know, like in softball, I can speak clearly about that. There's 4 divisions, and Division 1 doesn't have very many teams. Division 2 has a fair amount. Division 3 gets busier. And then the Division 4, there's a bunch. There's a bunch of coaches in that division. So when we go to our district meeting and stuff, they leave the big room for all the D4 coaches. Then the D3, we all go in like one classroom. We're all in one classroom. So that's, just shows you how big and then they use the whole cafeteria for D4. Wow. So there's, I don't know, 30 different teams, 40 different teams that are sitting there in our division, and it may not be that quite many, but there's a bunch that are in Division 4, and there's 15 or 20 maybe in Division 3, and it gets smaller as you go up. So, you just can't do that. You just can't put those big, small schools against those big schools. It's not going to work.
All right, last hot take here. Not really a hot take. It's just kind of getting our feedback, but favorite personal memory from this season so far. So we've had a lot, whether it be from, us doing broadcasts at Tenora Rams Live. We've watched some football games now in the postseason, which that's been fun too. So we had a couple fun trips, and we hope to make a couple more before the season ends. So I don't know who wants to start this off. Your favorite personal memory from this season so far. I can start. My favorite personal memory is getting some of that delicious fish from Antwerp because I hyped that up to those guys. I said, we got on the concession food kick, and we kind of need to. Maybe we'll touch on that more next season as we get to try more and more food.
Right.
But that fish was unbelievable. I love it, and that was probably my highlight of the season was getting some of that Antwerp fish, and it was so good I got 2 helpings of it. So
I tell you what, I was looking at Clay. I was seeing what they had. Then I didn't realize they just had burgers and like dogs and pizza. I think they didn't really have anything. I was looking to see if they had like their specialty, like the ribeye sandwich.
I was gonna say I could tell you what, I almost want to go back to an Elmwood game just to get that ribeye sandwich because we were down there and you could smell it cooking on the grill with their seasoning. And actually, I tried to find some of that. I'm trying to figure out what seasoning that Elmwood has that they put on that steak. That was really good seasoning. Dude, I tried finding that so I could cook on my own steaks at home.
I could have ate enough of those to make myself sick.
Oh, I know.
Those things were delicious.
They were.
But yeah, I don't know. My favorite personal memory. I don't know. I just I don't know yet. You guys can go. I'm still thinking.
Well, speaking on the Antwerp game, I think our setups at a lot of these games, especially the away games for Tenora Rams Live, has been interesting, I guess. The Edgerton game comes to mind when we have the window taped with a tarp just so we can film it while the rain's coming down. But Antwerp was probably the tightest space that we've worked with so far, with Logan kind of straddling the camera while leaning kind of out the window and
bent over.
There's a picture of that, of him leaning out the window.
Or Ayersville, we were out in the bleachers on the away side.
Ayersville
getting eaten up by the bugs.
Just the things we go through to bring sports to the community is honestly a pain sometimes, but it's awesome. I love doing it, and I always look forward to the next game that's coming around because I like doing more and more of it, even given some of the hoops we have to jump through.
I got one more favorite personal. It's not really just a specific one, but I love going to these playoff games with you guys and then hearing you guys talk about all these old stories and stuff. I think that's hilarious. We always we get on all these kicks, and I just like sitting back and listening to you guys talk, and it's awesome. Or it's always funny because like last week we went to Clay in Oregon, and I don't know what route Tony took, but we were taking all these back roads, and I'm like, geez,
thank you, Apple Maps.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, for future reference, don't ever use Apple Maps. Use Google because Apple Maps, I don't know, but just the trips in general, just going to and from, those are always good times. And we stopped at Wendy's and got a bite to eat after, and I enjoy the little moments like that too. So
that last week, that's funny you brought that up, Logan. I think on the way up there, I was following my maps because I wasn't sure where this place was at. Then once I got up there, I realized where we were at. I'm like, hey, if I can just take this road right here, I can take right back down the 2 and I'm back there. I think we drove back the way I knew after I realized where I was at. we stopped at Wendy's and we still made it home faster than we made it up there. We drove straight there with no stops.
Yeah, I think it took long to drive from Defiant, or it took long to go from the 475 ramp to Clay than it did from driving from Defiance to Maumee.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I kind of joked to Caleb, I'm like, what time you leave the school, Caleb? But personal favorite memories, there's just so many. AJ touched on a couple. Like our setups that we have is, like I said, we need to film those for you guys to see behind the scenes because some of them are so funny. The Logan touched on the last couple of weeks. Now that we're separated from Tenora, we kind of get to go to these different venues and be down on the sideline. The amount of people we run into on the sidelines and just have little small conversations is awesome. Like people you normally don't see that say, "Hey, we watch you" or "We listen to you," or like that guy last week over there at Clay was just telling us about the facility upgrades they did. I mean, just small conversations like that the last 2 to 3 weeks are great.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because we get to check out all these different facilities. And, honestly, if we weren't doing this, who's to say? I mean, we could have gone and watched some of these teams, but, getting sideline passes, we get to be a part of the teams and
awesome.
Take some good footage and videos. But, we also kind of get to go up and then check out their press boxes because we're always intrigued by press boxes and, the setup that they have. And I think that's always cool to see as well. So,
got to see Coach Lindgren last week up there.
Yeah.
So we're
telling some stories.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, my favorite personal memory, I guess, is just just hanging out with you guys every Friday night. It's been a blast. It's just I enjoy it. I always joke around. I tell everybody that I don't do anything, and if you guys are watching, I don't do any of this. That I just so up here, throw my laptop down, and start talking. For the most part, I help clean up, but. I don't do much, and I really appreciate everything these guys do. But it's just a lot of fun, and the whole season, guys, is a good memory for me. I coach football, and then I get to come up here and do this on Friday nights, and get to come over here and do this during the week, and it's just sit around and BS football. It's just fun.
So anyway, we spend more time talking off camera than we do.
Geez, yes. That's like some nights we're here, and like right now the timer's at like 2 minutes and 14 or 2 hours and 14 minutes. And that's right now. And honestly, we've probably only got maybe an hour and a half worth of footage, from the off-air time we talk to Coach Moeller, from the off-air time that we joke around or we talk about different topics, and it's just a good time. And I hope everyone enjoys it here.
Yeah, so. You guys can't see the time that we're recording tonight.
I know we had to change things around thanks to this new banner and tablecloth. Awesome. Thanks to BSN Sports. So again, we appreciate them, and
got the
we had
nice apparel,
as well.
BSN
so
Sports knocking it out of the park,
all decked out, making NWO Sports pretty professional here, and we definitely appreciate their support and their support that they provide for Northwest Ohio athletics. So definitely a good one. But that concludes our hot takes. Again, continue to send those in because the podcasts are winding down. We'll see. Depending on how the teams fare, we may only have
we'll have at least one more for sure.
Hopefully one more, and we'll see how things go. So other than that, we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. The Thunderdome is your local indoor softball and baseball facility offering private lessons, turf infield, batting cages, and pitching machine rentals, even offering a golf simulator. Located in Archbold, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-906-3643. Nicely Rentals and Storage is your go-to venue for graduation parties, birthdays, weddings, and more. Also offering vehicle storage, table and chair rentals, and U-Haul equipment. Located in Ayersville, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-439-6177. Trueland Equipment and Salesman Lauren Brown are your go-to for John Deere equipment in Archbold, Ohio. Mowers, compact tractors, skid loaders, and more. Your sales expert on commercial turf and CCE sales. Give Lauren a call today at 419-445-1565. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we're looking at our predictions for Round 4 or the regional finals of the OHSAA playoffs. So we're going to go ahead. We'll look at Division 5, Region 18, and the 4-seed Coldwater, 12-1, faces off against the 1-seed Liberty Center, 13-0, and that's going to be played at Lima Spartan Stadium. Looking at this game, Liberty Center is favored in this one, according to Drew Pastor, given a 66% chance to win and by 7 points. Looking at this game, personal thoughts. Both teams have played tough schedules. I believe Coldwater's played the second toughest schedule, according to Drew Pastor, in all of Division 5. Liberty Center, on the other hand, they've played the 16th toughest schedule. So 2 teams that have been battle-tested throughout the year. Coldwater's only loss has come to Marion Local, and obviously everyone knows about Marion Local. But we've had a chance to actually see both these teams play. We saw Coldwater play at Archbold, and we've seen Liberty Center play a total of 2 times this season so far. And I like Liberty Center's chances a lot. I think this game will be closer. Like Coach Mueller said before, I don't know that they'll necessarily have a running clock, but I think Liberty Center takes care of Coldwater pretty easily. I know Coldwater's got some really good talent. The Harlemert kid, and he said it perfectly too. Coldwater doesn't really have a lot of size. They got a lot of athletic linemen. They're going to run to the football. You're going to have 5-6 hats on the football every single play, tackling, similar to the mentality of what Liberty Center was. But I think Liberty's the more physical team. I really do. We saw both of them play, so I'm going Liberty Center, and I think they win by a couple scores.
I'm with you, Logan. Also taking Liberty Center. Yeah, don't discount Coldwater. I think Oak Harbor kind of ripped the Band-Aid off a little bit. It seemed like Liberty Center had a little bit tough time with the pass. And Blackburger and the Harlem kid out there, they could make some stuff happen and, make a little interesting at times. But watching Coldwater and Archbold play, which we did 2 weeks ago, I just don't know that Coldwater has enough athletes to hang with Liberty Center. And I just think Liberty Center is just going to beat them up and down the field, unfortunately. So I'm kind of with you. I think Liberty Center takes this one.
Yeah, it's the amount of athletes that Liberty Center is going to be coming at Coldwater with is, if you're going to stop Trent. Okay, well, we'll go to Colton. Oh, well, you're stopping Colton. Oh, well, we'll throw to Lincoln or to Landon outside. Or, we'll do a sweep around the side. We'll take those key players out of the game completely. Yep. And I think you kind of mentioned it good there, or mentioned a good point there that I think Oak Harbor kind of showed a few things that Liberty Center needs to work on coming into this week. I think it's very good for them. Yeah. I think Coach Mueller and the team over there is very well aware of some of the issues they did have with the pass coverage, which, mind you, the pass coverage was fantastic.
I don't think the pass coverage was bad. He was there.
They were there.
Catches, right.
Just about every pass that was caught, the guy was on the pocket, just wasn't able to come down with it. Yep. So I don't know if they work on a few more drills, defensive, getting the head around quicker or what, making the adjustments faster. And, up front, they weren't quite as able to march the ball right through the middle of the field like they have been. And I think that's just going to help showcase Liberty Center what they need to improve on going against Coldwater. And I think they're going to take care of business. I think they're ready for it. So I'm going to go with Liberty Center here.
I'm with Liberty Center as well. I'm looking at Coldwater's schedule, guys. I'm not as impressed with it. When I start looking at their schedule, I'm not as impressed with Coldwater as what I thought I would be. They played they beat an 11-2 Bellefontaine team, an 8-5 Anna team, 11-2 Versailles team. Then they lost to Marion Local, but now they've been taking care of business in the playoffs. As they started the playoffs, been taking care of business. They beat Indian Lake 47-0, beat Archbold, and they beat Edison last week 42-7. So they've been taking care of business once they got to the playoffs. But when I look at their schedule, a lot of teams without winning records that they were playing and beating. 1-9 Fort Recovery, 3-7 Kenton, 2-9 Parkway. Just not a lot of good teams there that they were playing.
But you got to imagine too, the teams that they played, even though they don't have good records, they're all beating up on each other.
Oh, I understand that. But it's those teams play each other, right? Parkway plays St. John's, and St. John's plays New Bremen and all that. But Parkway's 2-9, St. John's 4-6, New Bremen's 5-7, Versailles is 11-2. I guess I'm just not as impressed with their schedule as I thought I would be when I looked at it. So I'm all Liberty Center. I don't think Coldwater's going to be able to stop them. I think it's going to take somebody a little bit better than them to get it done.
Well, and going back to we got to watch Coldwater play against Archbold, and Coldwater definitely has some athletes that were fairly impressive, but as a team as a whole, they didn't impress me as much as I was expecting. I was expecting to come out and just take care of Archbold, setting up a really good matchup against Liberty Center, but they struggled with Archbold for a while. It was really the Harlemert kid that kind of ran the show there for the most part, especially in the second half that kind of propelled them to the win, but they were tied at halftime. Nothing special.
Actually, Archbold had a chance to take the lead, I believe.
Yeah, right before half. And then they fumbled the ball or intercepted or whatever it actually went down as. It was kind of like forward motion with the arm, whatever happened.
Duck rule.
Yeah, whatever it was. The turnover right, it was like maybe a minute left, 45 seconds left in the half. They almost had a chance to take the lead. So I'm sure the halftime adjustments played a little bit into the coming out and just shutting Archbold's offense down. But really, outside of a few big plays in the second half, Coldwater didn't really have much going for them. I mean, they had a few big breakaway plays that got them the points they got. But outside of that, both teams were pretty stagnant in the second half, in my opinion.
Rounding out the picks, Bryce had Liberty Center, Matthew had Liberty Center. Looking at the next game here, Division 6, Region 22, the 2-seed Bluffton, 11-2, faces off against the 1-seed Columbus Grove, 11-2, at Donnell Stadium in Findlay. This will be the NWO Sports Game of the Week. We will be going to this game as well, so if you see us again, stop by, say hi. We like talking. We talk a lot of football. We talk a lot in general. So, but no, if you see us, say hi. Looking at this game, Columbus Grove is favored in this one. Or I'm sorry. Columbus Grove is favored in this one. Let me double check that real quick.
Not sure.
I mean, it's going to be a tight game either way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a battle.
Actually, I knew that was wrong. Columbus Grove, or Bluffton, is actually favored to win this one by 4 points and given a 60% chance to win, according to Drew Pastor. I knew that wasn't right because the reason, I got to go on my little tangent here. Last time Drew Pastor had Bluffton picked, and that was week 10 of the regular season. That was for the Northwest Conference Championship. So Drew Pastor had Bluffton picked to win by 5 points and gave them a 62% chance to win. But Columbus Grove came out and won 14-7. I picked Columbus Grove the first time, and I'm going Columbus Grove again. I really believe in what they're doing. They're a tough team right now. This is going to be an excellent matchup. If you're around, this is definitely a game you want to go to. I don't know. This is like Rocky Part 2. These two are going to go at it. They're going to duke it out. It's a close game relative to both locations, so there should be a huge crowd. There's no reason not to go this game if you're from either school because there's a lot of tension. There's going to be a lot of tenacity in this game, a lot of violence, a lot of physicality, a lot of everything, and this is going to be a great football game to go to. We heard Coach Schaefer talk before. This game's going to be intense, that's for sure. But for myself, I'm going Columbus Grove. I like what they're doing. One of the hottest teams in the area. Obviously, they've got to be hot to be in the regional final game. So,
taking Columbus Grove, I took Bluffton last time, and with Columbus Grove playing Cary last week and beating Cary. Had they played somebody else other than Bluffton, I think you probably would worry about a little bit of a letdown. We talk about you got to bring the energy every Friday night, and I think Columbus Grove just left everything on the field last week versus Cary. Had they just been playing like Joe Blow this week, I think Coach Schaefer would have to worry about a letdown, but you'd say Bluffton. I think that's all you have to say. And the ears are up; they're ready to go. And as Logan said, that interview with Coach Schaefer, I think just didn't get Bluffton out of his mouth, and he was ready to go.
Yeah,
he wanted to play him again. But I'm looking forward to this game. We haven't seen the Bulldogs since me and Logan went during COVID to watch.
Yeah, it's been a little while. So we're excited to go see Columbus Grove and what they have to bring to the table. A lot of good athletes there. Yep. But one quick point, I have to imagine that Columbus Grove and Bluffton, once they won their respective game last week, as soon as they saw who's on the schedule next, I feel like all their players, their hair's got to be standing up like a dog getting ready to go after someone because these two are going to go at it, and I'm excited to watch it. AJ, what's your pick?
I'm going to start off with just saying I'm picking Columbus Grove here. The one thing that concerns me is it's always really hard to win twice against the same team. We see it all the time with matchups early in the season versus playoffs. Liberty Center Archbold had that happen a couple years ago where they got knocked off. It's just hard to win that second game, especially when it's such an evenly matched teams because you've seen what the other team has to offer and it just always ends up ending poorly for the team that won the previous time. Now, I think this time Coach Schaefer's got Columbus Grove just firing off so well that I got to go with Columbus Grove.
Well, guys, I'm picking Columbus Grove too. I picked against them last time, and I'm changing my pick this time, going with Columbus Grove. I think they're playing well right now. My only concern is how is the weather going to affect this game? There's a 75% chance of rain Friday night. that rain could affect the game, and who's gonna play better in the rain. We watched Sonora firsthand. Sonora played very, very well when it was raining out. Other teams like Paulding and Edgerton didn't. So the weather could be a factor in this game, and it could definitely determine the outcome.
Yeah, and the good thing for both teams, I guess, if weather is a factor, is they both run the ball and they run it well too. So,
right.
I mean, as far as tossing the ball and tossing the pigskin around, I mean, they do it a little bit, but other than that, I mean, if you can hold the ball when you're running,
hold on to it.
Yep, exactly. It'll be good to go. But other picks, Bryce had Columbus Grove, Matthew had Bluffton. So Matthew, oh man,
not a fan of not a member.
Columbus Grove wins. We know who's going to be. Coach Schaefer's going to be checking you out. So last game here. We're looking at Division 7, Region 26. The 6th seed Macomb, 11-2, faces off against the 5 seed Patrick Henry, 11-2 at Buckenmeyer Stadium in Napoleon. Macomb is favored in this one, according to Drew Pastor, given a 69% chance to win and by 9 points. A little stat, Macomb's Chris Algie is one of the better coaches in the area, and this is their 12th regional championship game in 31 years for him. Oh, man, this is going to be a good one. Crazy to think in a regional final, a 6 and a 5 seed made it out of everyone. Patrick Henry's coming off beating the number 1 seed, Hopewell Loudon, last week. I like the way Patrick Henry's playing. I've congratulated him enough, for facing the adversity, proving everyone wrong really this season. I'm going to have to go. I know Macomb's got a really good running attack. They've got some bigger linemen. I'm going Patrick Henry. I'm all bought in on the Patriots. They've made it this far. Don't let one team stop you from now. I mean, you've beat the number 1 seed. You faced adversity. You've taken care of business all playoff long. There's no reason that they can't win this game. So for that, I'm going the Patriots.
I am taking Patrick Henry because of Coach I. That guy has decades worth of experience. He's kind of like the mad scientist right now. He shut down Hopewell Loudon. I think they had 29 yards rushing, 6 first downs. I mean, if you would have said that going into that game, the Patrick Henry defense is playing great actually during the playoffs. They're playing lights out. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, his offense last week pretty much played keep away. It's like, we're not going to blow you out, but we're just going to methodically just eat up clock and yards and just keep the ball away from you. I think Patrick Henry's up last week 14-0 before Hopewell Loudon even got a possession in the game. So, matchup of two fantastic coaches here, but I can just see Coach I just looking at film after film after film and coming up with some just mystery game plan that's going to shock everybody.
I'm going with Patrick Henry for this game. I'm excited to see what they're capable of. We've talked about a couple of the hot takes, said that whoever comes out of this region here, specifically said that Patrick Henry is going to inch their way out of the region. And I think that's true, not because they're not as good as what they are, but I think it's because the region's tough. 5 and 6 are coming out of this one. That shows how even it is from top to bottom. So, I think Patrick Henry does inch out of the playoffs, and I think out of the region. And I think they do go to state.
Well, I tell you what, guys, I look at this, and the more I look at, I like Patrick Henry. I'm going with Patrick Henry, but I tell you what, they because they were able to shut down Hopewell Loudon last week, but boy, when I look at Macomb, man, they throw up a lot of points. You're definitely going to have to play keep away with these guys. I'm looking at their stats. Holy crap, they're throwing 50, 60 points a game.
They're almost like a mini PH, honestly.
Oh my gosh,
or a mini Liberty Center. I mean,
one of the more impressive wins. Looking at Macomb, I talk about Lima Central Catholic being the dark horse in this region. And actually, I think Lima Central Catholic at one point, according to Drew Pastor, had like the second best odds of getting out of this region as a 7 seed, and Macomb beat them 45-13.
Yeah.
And that was last round. So
they beat Eden 57-0. They beat Upper Saudi 53-22. They scored 45 points last week. They're throwing up a lot of points in the playoffs here. And then you go back through their schedule. They scored 56, 61, 49, 61, 63, 56, 55. That's a ton of points. They've got the offensive firepower that they need. We'll just see see if PH can do that again and play keep away.
As I say, but if you're PH and you control the ball for 30 plus minutes, it's hard to score that many points.
It's going to be huge.
But other picks, Bryce had Patrick Henry, Matthew had Patrick Henry. So that rounds out all of our picks, guys. Well, that's wraps things up, and we're on to closing thoughts. Thoughts going into this week?
Nothing different than what we always say. Get out and watch football. I know it's supposed to potentially be raining, but it's still supposed to be nice weather, warmth-wise. So get out and support the teams.
Me just thankful for being able to do what we do here. And on Friday nights, like we said, we get to travel and meet media members that we talk to throughout the game, before the game, after the game. The ADs have been fantastic.
They have.
That we've met.
The hospitality has been great.
It's been great. I mean, we could go on and on and on about the last 3 weeks, but for me personally, just thankful that we get to do what we do, and Logan's been great on getting us down on the sidelines last 2 or 3 weeks, which makes us even closer to the action. But that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been I cannot believe that we're down here to the regional final game, and guys, it seemed like it was just yesterday we were doing the coaching kickoff show. You know what I mean? At the parking lot there, yeah. So, but it was just crazy. It's just now here we are. It's November, and then we were just talking about this at work today, and like, holy crap! It's like next week's Thanksgiving, and then talking about football season. You're in the meat of football season right now. With NFL and college and high schools, going down to the state, trying to get the state tournament. It's just an exciting time of year for me. The football season is obviously one of my favorite times of year. I can't say that because of softball, but as far as watching stuff on TV and going and watching sports, I mean, football is awesome, and it's just hard to believe that we were at Defiance Physical Therapy. Just it seemed like it was yesterday. Yep. Remember talking to Coach Muller and all the boys and Coach Cooper and all of them down there, and then now all of a sudden here we are. And
there's actually basketball scrimmages tonight, honestly.
Yeah,
so
wow.
yeah.
It's been fun. It's been fun all season, and hopefully we get to continue to see a couple more games here.
Yeah, and my closing thoughts. I'm excited to go back to Donnell. Obviously, I played a lot of football there. Played a couple times in high school, and I played my whole career while I was at the University of Findlay. Great facility. I like the city of Findlay as well. So, maybe we could stop and get something to eat there, or maybe we won't have to because the hospitality at Donnell and the press box is unbelievable. I said that's the only press box that I know that actually has a bathroom. So it's a double-decker press box.
Findlay AD, if you're watching, Logan's been bragging you up pretty hard. So
it's awesome. Last year that press box can accommodate so many people.
It was awesome.
And I was okay because we weren't broadcasting, so we were put upstairs, and I loved it. Just real secluded. We could sit back, watch a game. Actually, that was the snow game.
Yeah, the Antwerp LCC snow game.
LCC. I've never seen it snow that hard in a game before, but we got to sit up in a nice warm press box, take some notes here and there and talk some football, and that was awesome. So, but yeah, love that press box. It's great. I always have a ton of food, drinks. They accommodate everyone well, and just a good facility. It'll be good to go back to Findlay.
Yeah, we went and got some pulled pork or something. Then we right across the pork place. You and your dad went to that pork place.
Oh, did we go Miller's Meats?
Yeah,
we stopped there. Oh,
got something to eat there.
Miller's Meats is good. Have you guys been to Miller's Meats in Findlay?
No.
I used to go there all the time in college. I don't know if they'll be open though. Hopefully they will be that late. But it's a really good little local. It's kind of like a Jacob's. That it's a meat market, but they serve.
It's like a restaurant. You can eat there.
You can eat there as well. But I like their pulled brisket sandwiches. I put teriyaki sauce on it. It's unbelievable. But they've got good mac and cheese, good everything there. So maybe we'll have to stop there and show you guys that.
I haven't had supper, Logan. Now you're talking about pulled pork.
I know, that's right. I know. I'm going to have to get something to eat after this too. But no, as far as that goes, I'm glad to go back to Findlay. It'll be a good time. So other than that, like we always say, get out there, watch some good football. The games are winding down. A lot of good games on the slate for some local teams. So,
games at Napoleon.
Yeah, pretty close games. Napoleon, Lima's not a bad drive. Findlay's not a bad drive. So get out there and watch some good football and support those local schools. So other than that, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors, 3-Court Optimal Performance Fitness, BSN Sports and Jim Garris, Bat and Stevens Body Shop, Tenora Rams Live, Jimenez Basketball Academy, Fairchild Family Chiropractic, NWO Basketball, The Drop Zone Pizzeria, Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty, Nicely Storage and Rentals, The Thunderdome, and Truland Equipment and Lauren Brown. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Jeff Batt for allowing us to use his amazing facility at Bat and Stevens Body Shop for today's podcast. Stay tuned for the next NWO Sports podcast in the near future, and thanks for watching.